visual cue for myself to let Vaughn know when someone's up next. And yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. There's a chat session that you can also type in. Sometimes I know one of our chats there, someone got a little carried away on there. So if anyone gets carried away, we're gonna boot them. So feel free to let us know if something's going on. I know when someone's up next. And yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. There's a chat session that you can also type in. Sometimes I know one of our chats there, someone got a little carried away on there. So if anyone gets carried away, we're gonna boot them. So feel free to let us know if something's going on. I know when.
Just in case you didn't hear it the first time.
And,
Right.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. There's
What's up, Mike?
session that you can also type in. Sometimes I know one of our chats there, someone got a little carried away on there. So if anyone gets carried away, we're gonna boot them. So feel free to let us know if something's going on. Vaughn, I think you have a loop going.
Yeah, you got a loop on.
Gareth, please explain what a feedback loop is.
It's the YouTube sounds coming through later.
Oh, okay, thank you.
It sounds like Rob's endlessly talking.
I think you can close the window for the YouTube.
Yeah, close the window.
Okay.
Hey, Vaughn, you know any good audio engineers that can help you over there?
Somebody sample this right now. Sample it.
Sample it.
Look at the
I'm
internet
still
tape.
learning.
Know any sound guys?
I'm
Yeah,
still learning
you're still
that
streaming
too.
live on YouTube, and you should be good now.
God, if only there was a... Okay, I just want to check. I've closed the YouTube. Thank you. I was scratching. Luckily, I've got one of UK's finest here to tell me what it was. I was about to pull wires out and stuff here.
And Gareth had just turned it into a piece of music.
Okay, right. So let's get started, guys. I want to say thank you and welcome to those of you who have joined. And I see there's a few more coming on now. And this is getting streamed to Facebook as well. And Rob and I are recording it as well. So don't say shit or bugger. Oops. Okay. So
Oh man.
I just want to say, obviously, there is a bit of a format tonight. We're going to keep this fun, but I want to keep it quite focused. I've made no sort of hiding the fact that we are here to promote Gareth's record, which is Electrogenetic. Just by a show of hands, don't shout. How many of you have actually heard it? Okay.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
It was quite funny because my wingman, Rob, him and I were talking about it. And he said, I haven't heard it yet. And I went, come on, Rob. He said, Vaughn, I'm waiting for the vinyl.
Okay.
So this is really what we're killing two birds with one stone. We're very happy because this has never been done before. Gareth has never come onto a Zoom chat and showed respect to fans like this in a situation where you can actually ask him questions yourself. So I want to thank you, Gareth, on behalf of myself and everyone here. We give him a round of applause for doing this.
Well, thank you, Vaughn, for setting it up and making the opportunity possible, because without you, I wouldn't have done it, obviously.
Well, I was starting to think you're getting second thoughts about it. But anyway, so we're going to start off. Rob and I are going to just do like a sort of three-way. I never use the word interview. Rob and I are going to do like a three-way chat here with Gareth. We're going to talk about Electrogenetic. And then after that, we're going to open up the floor to you guys. And you can ask him anything you want to, within reason, of course. I know there's a lot of Depeche Mode fans here, but anything you want to ask Gareth about his career, if you're an aspiring producer, Gareth obviously knows a thing or two, so you can ask him anything. But we are really here today to promote Electrogenetic. So I'm going to ask Rob to start the tape, and he's going to play the video, which is the Electrogenetic Indiegogo promotional video. So if you guys can just watch this, it's about 3 minutes long. That'll explain a lot, and then we'll come back and jump right into this. Rob, start the tape.
Load her up.
Hi, I'm Gareth Jones, and welcome to my Art Lab studio. Earlier this year, after decades of helping other people make awesome records, I released my own debut solo album called Electrogenetic. The Electrogenetic album is already available on Bandcamp with Calm and Collect, my first record label. It's a digital download and limited cassette. We've also done a small CD release on Wormhole. But of course, my dream and Vaughn George's dream, who I'm working with on this project, is to do a vinyl release. Hoping that we're going to get interest from the community to help crowdfund this ambitious project, we're already laying plans for how it might turn out. One of the first things as an audio geek that I'm concerned about is audio quality. The vinyl will be cut by Alex Wharton at Abbey Road. I've been talking to Vaughn about the vinyl package, and we've decided to do a simple sleeve with obviously top quality vinyl, 180 gram black vinyl in the package. And today Vaughn had a wonderful idea which I'm so pleased about, which is that if the community decide to help us crowdfund this project, we're going to credit everyone's name on a 12-inch square inset inside the sleeve, so that I can give a thank you to all the people who have helped sponsor the project. So thank you very much for your time and kind attention. It's a very exciting opportunity for me, this, to be able to make a vinyl, and most importantly, I hope you enjoy listening to the record that is very important to me and was a joy and a delight and a wonderful struggle to make. Thank you again for listening, and thanks for your potential support.
Okay, do you all get that in?
That was amazing.
Right, question one. What was the color of... Okay, guys, so that really explains nicely. That is the video that we produced that has gone onto the Indiegogo page. Now, the Indiegogo page, I will be sharing links with you at the end of the video. I will be sharing them on Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. And that is your way to get behind this project. Now, when... I want to sort of give a special shout out to my other wingman. Well, I don't want to say who's a better wingman, Rob or Technomatic, but Simon Forsyth did bring it to my attention a while ago that, you know, Gareth was releasing an album. So thanks for the heads up on that, Simon. And then obviously we did the first interview. And then one of the first things we naturally assumed was it would be released on Mute Records. That was just what we naturally assumed. That wasn't the case. It was released on a independent small label called Calm and Collect. And then me being a fanboy and a geek and everything, I said, I want a vinyl. And then Gareth said, you want a vinyl? And then we thought, well, why don't we put it out to the community? We'll put out a page, no pressure. We're just going to put out this page there and see if there is interest. Now, there have been people that have pledged already. Thank you very much. And all I want to say to you is that this is not a hard sale. We've basically just looked at and said, look, if you want this on vinyl, we're going to make it available if there is enough interest. And if there's not, we won't do it. And if there's not, then those of you who have pledged already, you'll get your money back. So there's no pressure here. I just think for myself, as a real hardcore Depeche Mode fan, I think a lot of you will agree that the Berlin trilogy is of your favorites. Some people have rated it as your favorite 3 albums, and it's a long story. We don't want to get into best and worst albums. But I think everyone unanimously agrees that the Berlin trilogy is of the standout body of work in the Depeche Mode catalog. And I really think if anyone, deserves their work to be pressed on vinyl, it is Gareth here. If you've heard the record, you will hear it's really a, as I say, I don't need to sell it because just listen to it yourself. It really just shows someone at the top of their game. But also, if you watch on that video there, Gareth said after years of producing other people's work, I was happy to see Gareth producing his own record, because that was very interesting, because Gareth's always been known as the mix engineer or the producer of other people's records. So for him to put his own music out, I was very excited about that. And I would love to see the Electrogenetic brand grow and some more records come out down the line. So I think that's my monologue in a nutshell.
There's definitely more records coming,
but
that's for sure.
Yeah,
and it is, and thank you for your support, Vaughn.
Yeah,
and it is exciting. But and thank you to everyone who's already listened to the record, because obviously, as an artist, that's like super important and so great when people take their time to listen to what we do. So that's really appreciated, and the vinyl is just a way of extending that for those of us who love vinyl. But let's see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes. Rob, you got a question you wanted to ask there?
So as Vaughn mentioned, I've known that the vinyl was possibly in the works for a while, so I've kind of held off in that experience. I've heard bits and pieces, but I'm kind of old school where I like to hear a whole album in a setting, and I'm just kind of curious, how do you listen to music when you're listening to your own music, like that you're enjoying? Do you like to listen digitally? Do you listen to vinyls, or how do you listen to music?
I'm pretty flexible, actually, Rob. I love listening to complete albums. I'm definitely in a long tradition of artists and old school music lovers, where if an artist releases a new album, then I'm at all interested in that artist. I definitely will sit down and listen to the whole album. I like streaming too. I am a fan of Tidal, actually, because of the super high quality that they allow us to enjoy. So that's cool. And one of my dear friends, Reinhold Heil, mentioned recently that there are many formats, if you like, that possibly sound better than vinyl, but there's no more beautiful way to listen to music, he said. And I thought he said that so evocatively and so clearly, and it really resonated with me, because I have that experience. But I've got a vinyl in my little studio that you saw in the video. I've got a vinyl player in my studio, what I call Studio B, in the back bedroom at home, and I've got a nice vinyl in my kind of living room. So I'm a huge vinyl fan, and I love to listen to vinyl too, but I don't buy everything on vinyl. I tend to buy more my friends' work on vinyl actually now, Rob, because the quality of streaming that I get from Tidal is so awesome that I really am enjoying listening to that as well. But of course, there's something special about it. Like my friend Reinhold said, it's the most beautiful way to listen to music. It may not sound the best, but it's super beautiful. I like cassettes as well. I've started buying some of my friends' cassette releases. At Carmen Collect, we've been doing cassettes for a while, and I've got a nice cassette player from the 80s that I had refurbished by a Genius Tech, and I was really amazed actually how good. I suppose I didn't listen to cassettes for about 15 years, and then when I got my little Sony Walkman refurbed and played even commercial cassettes bought in Woolworths through the hi-fi system, I was amazed at how big and fat and warm and wide the cassette format sounded. So you know what, I don't really care. I just love music, brother. So I guess I'm just saying I'll listen to music on any format.
No, that's a great answer. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think also this album particularly is, it's done in the sort of old school sense of an album where it's a journey. You're meant to listen to it in one sitting.
You are meant to listen to it in one setting, Vaughn. Yes, I mean how you listen to it's up to you.
Yeah,
but that is clearly the idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I know we've got a lot of geeks in the community, and a geek used to be a nerd, but it's cool to be a geek now. But just listen to the bottom end on that record. It's just got a depth which is like amazing. Where it doesn't. If I try and get music that deep, I usually get distortions. So your bottom is very good, Gareth. I said Gareth's bottom is very good. Cut. Okay, so what we're going to do is now, guys, we're going to open up the floor we're going to open the floor to you now for your questions.
Yeah.
Rob's going to. Who's the first one, Rob? Your question for Gareth?
Let's go with Matt Smith.
Matt Smith, your question, please, sir.
Hi. Really nice to meet you, Gareth.
Hi, Matt.
Am I on?
Yeah, I can hear you, brother.
Okay, sorry. Who were your, growing up, who were your musical influences mainly? Or people you looked up to?
Well, growing up's like a interesting phase, really, because I think I'm still growing up. But when I was a kid at school, I was like a massive classical music fan, partly because I think my mum and dad thought pop music was a bit shit. They thought popular culture was kind of rubbish, because of their own personal history and prejudice, I suppose. But I did really enjoy my dad's record collection, because my dad was a big record lover. He didn't have when I look at his vinyl, I've got his vinyls. After he passed on, I took his vinyl, but it's a pretty small collection, really, in modern terms. But for him, it was like a big thing. He didn't have a huge amount of money, but he would buy a vinyl every month or something. So, and he was always chilled out when he was listening to records. So I enjoyed a lot of, and I had an interesting crossover towards synthesizers in the late 60s when an artist called Walter Carlos made a legendary record called Switched on Bach. Walter is now Wendy Carlos, but at the time she was Walter Carlos, and that's a legendary record. So that was like an amazing introduction for me, because I had a little bit of a bridge, because I knew some of the works of Bach that were on the record, but I'd heard them played by more traditional instruments. To hear them play on this Moog Series 3 system was just kind of mind-blowing, really. It was like a mind-expanding drug in the days before I'd ever taken any mind-expanding drugs. Don't do drugs, kids, by the way. But so that was like a gateway experience. I suppose I'm talking about early years, formative years. I remember being part of at school. We kind of organized a trip. We lived about 100 miles away from London, and we organized a trip to go to the Albert Hall to hear Leonard Cohen. So his song, that was an incredible experience, really, because we bought the tickets. We were about 17, I think. We booked the bus. A bunch of us went down there. We sat right at the top of the Albert Hall which is a huge dome in London, awesome venue, and enjoyed that Leonard Cohen. I was a big fan of Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garfunkel. The music, I don't know, the musicianship, the songwriting just blew me away. And this is long before I'd ever worked in a recording studio. And gradually, I suppose, when I went to college, I met loads of friends who expanded my musical horizon. I got very interested in the British jazz scene. And I was like, there were certainly some underground bands. I was a big fan of Soft Machine and Matching Mole and Robert Wyatt. I discovered the Beatles a bit late in life, which blew me away. I was a huge Pink Floyd fan at the beginning. Looking back on that, I think one of the things I loved about the Pink Floyd records that I knew was the combination of electronics and drums and guitars and great songwriting. And that was kind of formative, I guess, for me in a way that it wasn't for many years. It was only after many years I realized how how formative that was, just how it's going back and listening to those records and marveling at the work they'd done with the early synthesizers was really cool.
Sure. And whereabouts did you grow up? Because I mean, I lived 100 miles from London, and I'm, you know, where were you?
I was in Worcestershire, in Evesham.
Right. Yeah.
You know, Midlands, South Midlands.
Yeah. I was in Warwickshire, so.
Okay. Yeah. Not far away. Yeah. So, and that was a very I cloistered kind of. I felt very, you know, I've enjoyed going back to the hometown, I suppose, in later life. But obviously, when I was a kid, I couldn't wait to get out because it seemed like a very small and blinkered kind of version of the world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. All right, Rob, just cue the next. Who's the next person?
Lloyd.
Okay, Lloyd. Before I just want to take a question from the Vaughn George Facebook group here. No, sorry, Vaughn George YouTube channel. Sorry, Jen Ward from the YouTube channel. She says, Gareth, hi Gareth, love the album. Congratulations on your debut album. And Jen Ward has two questions. Question one is, she's interested to hear the symbolism behind the album art of Electrogenetic, and she also wants to know, what was it like to be able to produce your own album, and were you what was it like to produce your own album? What was the intention and the symbolism behind the album cover?
I'll try and answer these questions quick because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions. So if I go, you know me, I can talk.
Just rapid fire.
I can talk for 3 hours about every question, which isn't fair.
Yeah, exactly.
So Jen, thanks for your interest. Obviously, there's two symbols, a ring and an ankh on the cover. The ring is my father's wedding ring, so I'm honouring the ancestors with the ring, I hope. And the ankh is the legendary symbol of life that kind of transformed into a Celtic cross. So I'm honouring the ancestors and honouring life. You know, most of my ancestors are gone. It's a 3.5 billion year chain of life before me. Most of them are dead, but the ankh speaks to the future and to life. It was super challenging doing my own record and super fun. So I can say anyone who's done anything on their own, you know, I felt I was channeling a higher spirit, if you like. It's not really about self-expression. I went through lots of ups and downs, as you do when you do something on your own. And that's it, really. That's my answer in brief. Is that right?
No, that's brilliant. Right, Lloyd, you have a question for Gareth. Go ahead, Lloyd.
Hi,
yes.
Lloyd.
Hi, Gareth. So is that right? You worked with John Foxx on Metamatic. I just want to know, what was it like working with him? Do you still keep in touch with him as well?
John, working with John was absolutely brilliant because he was like a mentor for me. He's only a bit older than me, but at the time, you know, when you're young, like 5 years or whatever, 3 years different, it's a lot. You know, John had already made like 3 albums with Ultravox when I met him, and I don't think I'd made a whole album yet, you know. So I learned one hell of a lot from John about electronics and simplicity and minimalism and recording. I've learned so much from all the artists I work with. I do keep in touch with John a little bit. You know, I've been to a few of his gigs, and we've had the occasional exchange. We're not close mates, but I'm forever thankful to John, actually. And also, just briefly, John did push me to work with Depeche Mode as well, which I'm very thankful for, partly because I learned so much in all the fantastic work I did with them, and you know, become lifelong friends with Mute Records and Daniel as a result. And it was John who pushed me in that direction, because when I started, when the possibility of the gig working with Depeche came up, I thought they were kind of a band who were on the radio and a bit pop, and I was into this weird jazz and underground reggae and stuff, and I thought, I don't want to do that. It's a pop band, you know. So really, I've enormous respect for John and lots of thanks, and he was a great mentor and a great help.
Thank you, Gareth.
Okay, cheers, mate.
Thanks for the question, Lloyd. Who's the next, Rob?
Chris is up next.
Chris, your question for Gareth, please, sir.
Hi, Gareth. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Chris.
Hi. First of all, thanks for all the cool work, all the records you've produced. It's awesome listening to. I'm enrolled at university studying music production, and I've recently started deep diving into film scores, soundtracks, and I'm writing a paper on it right now, actually. So I wanted to know, what's your take on movie scores? Do you like it? Would you ever consider scoring episode or something?
Yeah, I'd love to do some film music. Something I've spoken about with my colleagues. I've got another couple of projects. I've got a project called Spiritual Friendship that I do with my friend Nick Hook from Brooklyn. And I've got another project called Naus Alpha that I do with my friend Chris in the Catskill Mountains. And we've all spoken about, what a great format it is. It's very challenging and very interesting as well, I guess. So, and I love movies, and I go between different. Sometimes I watch a movie and I'm enthralled and overwhelmed by the score, and sometimes I watch a movie I don't even notice the score, and then afterwards, but it's a great movie, which is also a great skill. And then afterwards, I might play the soundtrack or something and think, wow, what an amazing soundtrack! I didn't even notice that because it's supported the storytelling so much. It's a different art form, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you're supporting the storyline that a writer and a director's vision is leading. But it's still, to me, in my naivety, it also seems with the right director, it seems it's a possibility to have a great creative freedom because you're not working in a song format, and you're not. You might do something really important in a 30-second cue, whereas a record of 30-second cues is a bit speedy to listen to. So I love the format, and I wish you every success with your paper. What are you writing about?
Well, basically the correlation between music and psychology, like how we react to the music. Kind of the thing you were talking about there, how we can react subconsciously to music.
Yeah, and that's such a deep part of a great film composer's work, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you for the question, Chris. Who's next, Rob?
Christian Martin.
Christian Martin, your question, please, sir.
You have to unmute yourself, Christian.
I can't hear you, Christian.
Yeah, I think he's muted. Christian, unmute your microphone.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you turned off your video, though.
Sorry, guys. Congratulations, Gareth, for this very refreshing album, first of all. It's really brilliant. And I'm very interested in the way you were producing this album, actually, and what kind of synthesizer did you use? I don't know if you are allowed to cite any brands or models.
I'm very happy to cite models.
Okay.
Is that the question? Shall I start talking?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool. I'm a big fan of Make Noise, the legendary modular synth company based in Asheville in North Carolina, same town as Moog, actually. I'm a big fan of Moog as well, but I fell in love with the Make Noise. And on my Electrogenetic website, there's a little thank you to Make Noise, actually, which if you check it out, if you'd like to. I'm trying to say with the name, right, Electrogenetic, I'm trying to express the idea that the modular patch gives you something back above and beyond what you expected. And this is why I'm wary of this self-expression idea. Obviously, I've been working with synths and modulars really since the 80s, but with a modern wave of Eurorack modular, it's kind of not cheap, but it's vaguely affordable, as opposed to the vintage stuff, which I can't really afford. So it's a modern Make Noise modular with other modules built in, of course. You build a patch, you dream up, you plug in wires, you dream up this idea and this patch, and then by interfacing the patch with the patch, it gives you stuff back. And it's that relationship and that feedback with the modular that I find so powerful, and that was such a core part. So almost every piece on that record started with a modular improvisation, some of which were too long, massively too long. So it took me ages to work out how to edit them down. I think really it's only the final piece on the record that I actually wrote at a keyboard around a bunch of chords. So that's basically the workflow. Build a patch on the modular inspired by life and history, and then interface with it and improvise with it and see what happens.
I just want to interject there. Obviously, it is very abstract. And later on in this, at the end of this video, I do want to mention this about the postcards that Gareth's doing as well, because Gareth is also doing watercolors, and he's doing a set of exclusive postcards, which he will send to you. So we'll give you information at the end of this broadcast to tell you how you can get hold of one of these rare, very rare and unique. Right, who's the next question, please, Rob?
Mike LaJoy in Seattle.
Mr. LaJoy in Seattle. Let me pull you up there, brother. What's your question for Gareth,
Hello.
please?
Hi, Mike.
Howdy. So I've got kind of a geek talk question.
Okay.
Hopefully you can dig way back in the memories here. But what's your funnest or funniest thing you've ever sampled?
Oh man, I don't. The thing about, my relationship with sampling has all been about sampling the world. I was never interested in using a sampler to recreate an already existing instrument. That seemed to me to be a not a particularly interesting way of using a sample. So we did sample. I do remember there's and I might have talked about this before, but there was a legendary moment on one of the Depeche sessions when Fletch came rushing into the control room and said, "You've got to come and listen to this aerosol in the gents' toilet," where sometimes you close the door or flush the toilet and an automatic aerosol goes off. So we rushed in there with a big microphones and sampled it. Probably made a hi-hat out of it.
I will always think of Fletch now. Whenever I hear aerosols, when I Fletch. Brilliant.
So that seemed funny at the time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's been a hugely deep and awesomely productive experience sampling the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just to sort of elaborate on that, so much of Depeche Mode sound is built around sampling things and manipulating them, and so you have no idea what it was to begin with, but it makes just an amazing composition.
Well, we had a big part of that workflow was to build what we call combination sounds. I think when we started, quite often if Martin had written a riff or something, or Alan had written a riff, you tend to think you just play it on one sound. And quite early in our process, we discovered that by using 3 synths and a sampler to play the riff, we could make a sonic voyage that was just taking us somewhere else. So this whole layering, I mean, it's a thing. Obviously, everyone does it, but we discovered it fresh for ourselves in the 80s.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's this layering that gives it such incredible depth and texture sometimes, when disguises perhaps some of the original sound.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Mike.
Ray Luna's up next.
Ray Luna, brother Ray, where are you, sir? Your question for Gareth, please, Ray.
I do. Hello, Mr. Jones. How are you? Nice. Thanks for joining us. And I listened to your album also. It sounds amazing. I have a question. I'm curious. What was the first project that took you to Germany, to Hansa Studios? I know it wasn't Depeche Mode, but what project was it that took you to Germany?
What
was your impression of the studio at the time?
I got hired to work on a German new wave group called Ideal, or Ideal, you'd say in English. And it was their 3rd album. And I'd already met the bass player, Ernst, actually, around about the 2nd album. But I think I'd met him in London through Tuxedo Moon or someone. And he was a really cool guy and super chill. And they did the 2nd album with the legendary producer, my friend Connie Plank. Rest in peace, Connie. And when it came time to do the 3rd album, they got in touch with me again. And we tracked that album in Vienna. And I wanted to mix it in. I was quite young and inexperienced and insecure. And I really wanted to mix it in London in a studio that I knew. But the manager of the band were all based in Berlin. And the manager said, "Okay, that's fine. If you guys want to mix in London, we'll make it happen. But before we do that, just come and have a look at this studio in Berlin." And so he took me into Hansa studio. Connie Konsak, the guy's name was, the manager. And I was like, all right, Connie, I'll come and have a look if you want, you know, being a bit nervous and insecure. And he took me to this like penthouse studio with a massive like SSL console in it, which was a big thing. And it's still a big thing for the young engineers, actually. But it was a massive thing in the 80s. And I'd never worked on SSL before, and I really wanted to. And I just saw this incredible studio that he showed me. And like in about 10 seconds, I said, yep, that's fine, Connie, we'll do it here. So it was the combination of this band, Ideal, and their manager, who turned me on to the legendary Hansa studio. And of course,
you ended up living there. You ended up living there?
I moved to Berlin, yeah.
Wow.
But we knew about Hansa, of course, because being huge David Bowie fans, Low and Heroes were both tracked there. So, you know, this was a thing in our consciousness anyway, Hansa studio. So I totally was blown away, and I mixed that record there, and I mixed another record there, and Daniel was visiting Hansa to visit the birthday party, who were recording downstairs, and I was mixing something else upstairs. And I think we'd already started on Construction Time. And I said, Daniel, why don't you come upstairs and have a look at this mix room, see what you think. Maybe we could mix Depeche here. And he liked it, and it was affordable, and we love Berlin. Berlin's an amazing, I mean, I love all big cities. I love the country and nature, but I love big. Berlin's an amazing city still. It was very special in the 80s when there was a wall around it, special atmosphere. Daniel loved it as well. And so there you go. The rest is history.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to meet you.
Okay. Yeah, great to meet you too. Thanks for your question.
Thank you, Ray. Who's next, Rob?
Glenn in the Bay Area.
Glenn, your question for Gareth, please, sir.
Hey guys, I just want to express tremendous gratitude for taking the time to do this, and it's nice to meet you guys and Vaughn and all that you're doing for the history of Depeche Mode, and Gareth for your new album and what you're doing today. I follow you in social, and I love your activity. You've introduced me to a lot of things and answered questions, so thank you for being so gracious.
Okay, thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Yeah. My question is, you talked about having a good friend push you to kind of get over that insecurity with working with a pop band like Depeche Mode. Can you, now that you've sort of worked with a lot of talent, as you said, can you talk about that nurturing? Like, how do you get yourself out of the way or include yourself nurturing talent that may be new and insecure like you were in the early days, or getting out of your way to let people do what they need to do? Talk about that relationship a little bit.
It's very, it's a kind of an honor and a privilege to work with the talented youngsters who don't have much experience, because it's wonderful to see them grow so fast. You know, the learning curve's steep at the beginning, isn't it? And hopefully we're all learning our whole life anyway, but at the beginning the learning curve's very steep, so you learn very quickly. I think you've touched on something super important when you say getting out of the way. It's very important to, I think, I was a bit hyperactive when I was younger. So it took me a while to realize that sometimes the most important thing I could do in the studio was actually nothing, as a producer or as an engineer. Just let the band get on with it and capture what they were doing, because sometimes that is the absolute magic. Sometimes it's really important to be hands-on, and if everyone's stuck, it might be good to, you know, come up with an effect or a cup of coffee or a radical new look at a track that the band's working on to try and bring it into new light. But it's super important to be sensitive to the vibe in the creative space when we're working together. I think it's super important as well when we work together as a team is never to shut each other down, so that if we decide to work as a team on anything, I think it's very important to make space for the other people's ideas. And so many great artists do that. I think it's almost like self-evident. If you're in a team, everyone's ideas are important. If anyone has an idea, let's try it out. And that's a big part of how I try to facilitate. Sometimes in young bands, especially if you're a bit insecure, that there can be like ego clashes. I've experienced a lot of people wasting a lot of time talking in studios. So as I've got more experienced, I just try to make as much music as possible, because all the musicians I work with love making music. That's why they're in it. And I try to rather than spend an hour discussing whether we should do A, B, or C, I'd rather spend 40 minutes doing A, B, and C, and then playing it back, and everyone can listen. And usually, once with artistic people, once the ideas are sketched, it's pretty clear in the room what's the most powerful idea. So I'm a big facilitator, I suppose. That's part of my production style. I'm definitely not one of these people who thinks they know everything and knows exactly how it should be. I try to facilitate experimentation and growth, which was why it was to bring it back to Depeche. Is why it was so great working with Depeche in the 80s for me, because we very much felt we were doing experimental electropop, and anything goes.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the question and for your kind words, Glenn. Really appreciate it. I'm taking a question from the Vaughn George YouTube channel. This is from James Aparicio. And James
Aparicio. Hi, James.
Aparicio. Sorry.
Yeah, it's Aparicio. I know James.
Do you know him?
Yeah.
Oh, James. Oh, a friend of Gareth Jones is on the YouTube channel. Yeah.
James is a great mixing engineer.
Oh,
He's
right.
I met James when he assisted me on many records at Mute, actually. I met James
right.
at Mute. He's a great guy.
Well, James, why don't you come onto the Zoom chat, mate? But anyway, James has got a question for you, Gareth, and his question is there a project you turned down that you wished you hadn't? You're probably glad you didn't turn Depeche Mode down, which is probably...
Or Erasure.
Yeah. Exactly.
Is there a project I turned down
that you wish you hadn't?
Probably, but I can't remember what it was, James. There probably is a project that I've turned down that I was too stupid to do, but if it comes to me, I'll share it later. But also, it'd be a bit stupid of me to share it as well, I suppose, especially with some legendary record.
Freddie Mercury. Yeah, turn Freddie Mercury down.
But I am not. I've been very lucky. I'm not one of these engineer or producers. I'm not really that oversubscribed. So it's not like I'm getting 20 times as much offers of work as I can find the time to do. Somehow I've drifted my way through life and connected with really good people and made some wonderful records. I'm sure I will have made mistakes and turned stuff down. Luckily, I've had some great mentors in my life who've pushed me to do things and said, "Rick, you should think about that. Go for it."
Great. Well, thanks for that question, James. Rob, who's next on the Zoom chat here?
Tony.
Tony, your question, is that Tony Duncan?
Yes, sir.
Your question for Gareth, please, sir.
Congratulations on the album, Gareth. Fantastic.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it.
Fantastic. I had the opportunity to listen to it a few times in different situations too, headphones, car, different. One thing I noticed about this album, it's very warm. It's got this warm feel to it. I was wondering, and I know you use a lot of analog gear to do that. Can you get that same warmth digitally without the use?
Yes, I think you can. I think a lot of it's about aesthetic, Tony. There's so many great people working now in digital and in analog. I think it's more an aesthetic thing. My choice of analog synthesizers, and the modular in particular, is because of the very organic and fragile and live nature of the fact that if you build a patch with a modular, you have to record it. It's the only way to kind of save the patch. Right. It never sounds the same again. So I've embraced the analog modular world, but more for the work. I love the sounds, of course, but more for the workflow, which forced me to commit. I really believe that you can get a wonderful warmth in the digital world. Having said that, though, I am still recording to tape on occasion. I've just bought a Revox for my studio at Strongroom, which I'm mastering to. I very often mix through an analog mixing chain because I love it. I find it gives me something, I think. But really, I think that the digital audio world is so flexible and so creative that it's an aesthetic thing.
Right.
So that if you're buried in 70s records that you love, in the way that you can do a modern you know, a modern version of that, like the Black Keys or something. The Black Keys to me sounds always like with a wonderful mixer that they work with. You know, whose name escapes me for a minute. It doesn't matter, but that sounds to me like the 70s modernized, and a great big modern bottom end, but a 70s warmth. I've no idea if they work on tape or digital. It's about aesthetic, you know, and so many people work.
J'ai parlé directement à Gareth Jones et il a répondu à ma question.
Oh, someone's microphone's on.
Some French person's microphone's on. Anyway, it's you know, so much of the work that we all do now, Tony, is hybrid, isn't it? We might be recording in a laptop, but we might be using loads of guitar pedals. That might be, some of them might be digital, some of them might be analog. You know, it's a wonderful time to be experimenting with music, I think, because the possibilities are so great. But I do think that the final result is more about us than it is about the tools.
Great, yeah, that's something that's something we always talk about. But Tony, he's a really good wingman of mine as well. He runs his own Facebook group as well, and he's
Chad Blake. Yeah. Thank you, Alex. Yeah.
And he's a super duper geek. So Tony, here's something I just want to sort of throw out to you and anyone here who's into music production and stuff. What I'm saying to you now is not a fact; it's a question. It's something that Gareth and I talked about. I mentioned to Gareth the other day the interest in doing some sort of masterclass. Now, that's all I'm saying is I just want you guys to discuss it amongst yourselves. A masterclass situation would be a situation like this on Zoom, where we would have classes of probably 10 people at a time. Because if you're paying for a class, we want to make sure you have value. So I just really want to put this out to the community. Don't answer now, but just think about it, Tony. I know you'd be very interested. How would you guys feel about a Gareth Jones masterclass? Because I think there is a wealth of knowledge here. And I always say Gareth's a little bit like Obi-Wan Kenobi or Yoda. You know, it's not all about, because being a good music producer is not only about being, good with knobs and faders and stuff. It's about being a very good connector with people. Am I right? Being able to get the most out of people.
I think so.
Yeah.
Not in life, right?
Yeah. Well, in life.
In life.
And in the studios.
Important. Yeah, obviously. But
yeah.
It's important how we treat each other.
So yeah, to the geeks there, just if you guys can just let me know later on what you guys think of a masterclass, or what would you guys like to hear? Because I think there's a wealth of knowledge here, and I think Gareth can bring tremendous value. Right, I'm going to take a question from the. Thanks, Tony. I'm going to ask a question from the YouTube channel. Here's one of these questions you don't like, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I know what your answer is going to be. The question is, which is your favorite Depeche Mode album and your favorite Erasure album that you've produced?
Oh, not the favorite I produced. No, my favorite Depeche Mode album. No, I don't have favorites in the work that I produce.
It's like having a child.
Okay,
which is your favorite child?
I've said that before. Yeah. Obviously, yeah. That's what people do ask about favorites. I don't. All the work is so important to me that I can't choose favorites, and everyone is special for its own reasons. Like I usually say to people, "Have you got kids?" when they ask me this question, and they say, "Yes, I do. I've got 3," and I say, "So, which is your favorite?" So I can't. I can't answer it.
Yeah, it's. I knew that was going to be an answer.
But I do think my favorite Depeche album is Violator, though.
Violator,
which I didn't work on.
Same here.
Thank you, Flood. Thank you, Flood.
Well, this was an interesting question we talked about in a video. I think we're going down a Depeche Mode wormhole now. Is a lot of people asked, what would Violator have sounded like if Gareth produced it? I think it would have been brilliant. It would have sounded different, but consider that. Right, Rob, who's the next question from the Zoom chat here?
David Logan had his hand up. Do you still have a question, David?
David Logan? Go for it, sir.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Excellent. Yes, thank you. Hi, Gareth. Pleased to meet you, and yourself, Vaughn, also, and the wider community. Pleasure to have a few moments of your time. Thank you. I was going to ask on the subject. It's quite spooky because I was thinking about. My question is about for the home producer, which I consider myself to be in composition. Obviously, budgets are my budget in particular is quite limited, so I rely a lot on VST plugins, etc. there tends to be a hue with them in the final result, if you know what I mean. This cumulative effect of using several plugins across a recording, or any sort of hints or tips or advice you could offer in that regard. I've resorted to reamping things through my very old, very cheap Fender amp and sticking a few mics in front of it to try and get some warmth and some added depth, etc., with mixed results. And also layering as well, as you've mentioned, with some of those. But it's, again, I think because you do hear that a lot with a lot of people who are heavily reliant upon plugins, etc., which has opened up music for so many people. It's really democratized it in that regard.
Yeah.
But then you want something different. You want something new. You want to find your own innovation. Hence the reamping from yourself.
Well, I think that, and one of the great things to me, I find that when I obviously I use loads of plugins like everyone, and I love it. And I might often use stacks of plugins all doing something subtle, and the end result. And then, you know, I used to think it was a bit naff when I saw people's sessions with like 8 plugins or 10 plugins on a track or something. But I do that myself sometimes now, and I gradually build it up, and then I bypass them all. And the difference, even though each one is kind of only doing a little bit, when I bypass all of them, the difference is night and day in a way. And just to add to one of the things, like something like reamping or something, or mucking around in the analog world, is, and it happened a lot on my record, as I tried to say, with this idea about the electronics coming up with ideas itself, you know, is it's easier to have a happy accident with the analog world. If you've got a bunch of pedals on the floor or a guitar amp or something, and you just plug in stuff in there, it's easier to have a happy accident for me, I think, than it is when I'm in digital. When I'm in the box, which I love as well, but when I'm in the box, it's seems all a bit more considered. Yeah. You know, partly because of the stupid mouse that's usually one controller at a time. You know, I'm a big fan. I got loads of faders. I'm a big fan of hardware controllers, but you know, it's a bit weird, the mouse thing. That's why iPad's so exciting, isn't it? Because you can touch more than one thing at a time. But just to give a kudos to John Foxx, actually, he was one of the very first people, and this is the first record I ever made, top to bottom, recorded and mixed, Metamatic. We were doing something, and I patched something in on Noise Gate or something it was, I can't remember, and it made this big noise that I thought it was absolutely not what I was intending to do. And being a young engineer, I was like, oh, fuck, that wasn't supposed to happen. And I pulled the wires out. And John said, don't do that. It was awesome. And at that point, this is something, you know, I think John had learned himself. We get from the great master, Brian Eno, the paying attention to the accidents is so important. And that's what's really good about, and that's why I would encourage your work with coming out the box, reamping stuff, mucking about with pedals. Shit happens that you couldn't have dreamed up. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's really better than what you would have dreamed up yourself. And that's a very important part of being an artist, I think, is to embrace the serendipitous synchronicity.
Yeah. Thank you ever so much. I really appreciate that. And I'll be very interested in the masterclass, I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah, good luck.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Thanks for the question. But I've just elaborate on that's a good question. I just want to elaborate on that. If you had done Electrogenetic in the box, it would have sounded very different.
I couldn't have done it in the box.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done it in the box.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
The whole point was to commit. The big thing about it's like playing guitar or modulates. You have to record it.
Yeah.
It's a massive commitment.
Yeah.
And in the box you can just save forever.
Yeah.
And then no, that's no, you know. But so it's not even. It's that black and white. It wouldn't have happened. I think with the modern modular that I keep saying is not cheap but vaguely affordable. After all that vintage stuff, that was just like, oh, how can I possibly afford that?
Yeah.
The modern modular really has become an instrument where I'm being able to make stuff that people seem to enjoy.
Yeah.
That I enjoy, and I've been able to complete stuff, Vaughn. That's so important. Mm-hmm. Everyone's got folders of ideas on their computer. I had 30 years worth of sketches that I never finished. And that was the big breakthrough for me, was finishing.
Well, I think this is a huge subject for the Gig Talk series here. So Gareth, I think really what you're saying is that working with the modulars and the way you did Electrogenetic, you are forced to commit.
For me.
Yeah, because if you're working in the box, you don't have to commit. You can, and this
it's just personal for me though. Everyone has to find their own. You said, for me, what would it have been like in the box? I said it wouldn't even exist
Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah,
exist for
yeah,
me.
Yeah.
Because it's only, yeah. Anyway.
Well, I do think the in the box domain is one of the things that we have this tremendous procrastination these days. Is like we can keep saving it, come back, saving it. Whereas when you're working as you did with electrogenetic, you have to commit that you have to record it at that moment.
Yeah, and you record it, and
Yeah.
then later, that doesn't mean later you might edit it. You might throw it away.
Yes,
and
yes.
so that didn't really work.
But
And then you have to make something else.
But there's commitment involved.
Yeah,
whereas
there's
as
huge
opposed
commitment,
to
yeah.
saving and opening. And
As any guitarist would know.
Yeah.
You know, when you pick up a guitar and play the guitar, there's
Yeah.
a huge commitment involved.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's a very good.
I'm going to take a 2-minute bathroom break.
Absolutely, go for it.
And I'll
sir.
be right back.
Great.
So I'll just give you guys an idea of where you are in the queue.
Yes,
so
please.
Larry's coming up next, then Christian Martin, then Mike LaJoy, then Sean. I'm not sure if we have. It looks like Lloyd and Tony have questions going still. I don't know if you have another question. Alberto, we'll get you in there as well.
How are you guys enjoying this so far? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I have a question
amazing.
for Vaughn, actually.
Go on.
Hey, he was talking about these happy accidents that he recorded. I'm not a real tech geek like the rest of you. I'm learning from you guys when it comes to that. Would he ever consider maybe making some of those recordings available as patches for you guys? I don't know how that works, but Michael Joy, we met a guy who had all these original samples from Depeche Mode, and I guess they had sent him something, but maybe he could make those available for your masterclass so that the students could tinker around with some of his happy accidents. For a fee or whatever, you license them or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, it is something that, look, I know there's a lot of information. There is an abundance of information on YouTube. And a lot of it is very good and some of it is not. So, back in the day, there used to be this thing of the information was hard to come by. These days, we have an abundance of information. And the challenge these days is not finding information, but actually filtering it out. So trying to sort of discern between what's good information and what's not good information. So this idea really came to me the other day when I was at Gareth's studio.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, you're welcome. We were talking about this, and if we take someone like Gareth who has done great records, he will still say that he's learning and he doesn't know he doesn't know everything. The point I'm trying to make is that we're always learning, and I've learned so much from Gareth just in the few conversations we've had. And that's why I asked him a question. I said, there is so much value in what you're saying. And I know my community, I know, what people want. And that is why the idea of a masterclass did come up. And so, I'm sort of throwing him on the deep end. Yeah. It's just, I just want to sort of see what the demand is from there. But I've got no doubt in my mind that if I said we were running a masterclass with Gareth, I think it would be good value. And I think you guys would learn a hell of a lot because, I mean, the proof's in the pudding, the Berlin Trilogy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've done loads of masterclasses, of course, but what would be new here would be doing it in this format, which is appropriate for modern times.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's wonderful to be able to reach people in all different parts of the world.
Absolutely.
So,
and
I'm sure we would all love to hear some of your happy accidents too, live, while we're all live in the masterclass.
It is an
Yeah. Well, Ray, there's one more thing. Now that I'm sort of like flying the flag for Electrogenetic, and I'm sure a lot of you will as well. Gareth Jones, the artist, as opposed to just Gareth Jones, the producer and the mix engineer. It's but I'm thinking, please. So we're eating, guys, because we're flagging. So they vegan, vegetarian, yeah, delicious. Gareth's really a big lover of tape. And I think there's a lot of people that I coach and in the community they don't know much about tape. I don't know much about tape, but I love tape, even though, it's because we believe that it's great. But Gareth has talked about something you want to do with the first Electrogenetic album, and that was sell pieces of tape off the Electrogenetic.
No, I didn't.
Not sell them.
No, I wanted to. I did think about releasing in the 60s and 70s. You could buy music on reel-to-reel tape.
Pieces of tape. Yeah.
I wasn't thinking of pieces of tape. I was thinking about a whole album.
Oh, okay. Now I think that was actually I'm stealing Simon Forsyth's thunder, because he mentioned maybe like doing the album and everyone.
That's right. It was Simon's idea.
It was Simon's idea. So giving full respect to where it comes. Anyway, let's jump back to the questions. Rob, who's next, please, sir?
Larry is up next.
Larry, your question for Gareth, please.
All right. So in 1983, when Depeche Mode did Everything Counts, Martin, whenever like they would do it live, Martin would like pull out this little melodica and then start playing it. Did he use that exact same melodica in the studio as he did live?
Yes.
Oh,
That's
I'm always fascinated with like the different sound effects Depeche Mode uses. Like take Stripped, for example. You know, there's a whole bunch of like metal pipes banging, and I always wonder, like, ooh, how did they get that sound?
On what?
The song Stripped, where you hear
like Stripped, those, Stripped. Yeah, okay, sorry, man. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, but definitely in the real musical instruments were fair game as well. Obviously, it's all very synthesizer and sampling driven, but the melodic as an example, I think there's probably some acoustic guitar on everything on Construction Time again as well. A little bit of acoustic guitar.
Love in itself.
Probably other, if you like, conventional instrument, non-synthetic instruments. So yeah, the melodica was just perfect for that riff, obviously, and I think it was probably on Martin's demo. Martin did really good. Sorry, Larry. Martin did really good demos, and sometimes it was just ridiculous to try and even beat the sound that was on the demo. And the melodica is so evocative. There was another on something else. I think it might be People Are People. There was an emulator sample sound that Martin had made from a plane cabin or something. I don't know. Some field recording he'd made, and we'd spent quite a long time trying to replace and change that sound. And at some point, it just became obvious that the demo sound was what it was supposed to be, and so that's what we used.
So the reason why I asked that question is because like I was watching footage of Depeche Mode live on this. It was on this show called Super Flash. It was like it was a show in Italy, and I thought it was like pretty good. And speaking of music shows, there was this one show I found in Italy called Siete due volte, which translates to "Was there twice?" And I one day like for the future, I hope to like appear on that show. It's basically like the Italian version of Top of the Pops.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really know much about it. Like I found a little footage of it, but Vaughn, I know I said this before, but I just want to get this out of my system real quick. So just to tell Gareth. So for the future, when this whole situation's said and done, I'm forming my own alternative rock band called the Red Sharks, and I hope to like appear on like Siete due volte. Like the setting for it, because this is what Top of the Pops used to do back then. They would like do different settings, and for this setting, I want it to be like ancient. Like this is like a sketch of it, and over here on the B stage, we would like do like an acoustic song. And then me and the guitarist would walk on this catwalk all the way over here to the main stage, and that's where we would do the electric explosion set. And these are all the people that are watching us.
Okay, cool. Seems like you've got a game plan going there, Larry. I wish you all the best with it, brother.
Yeah.
Larry, it's
next up we have Christian Martin.
It's good to have dreams, mate. Good stuff. Yeah. Yes, Christian Martin, go for your question to Gareth, please, sir.
Yeah, hi again. My question is about the character, the personalities of different Depeche Mode members. How did they behave during the recording sessions? Like, is there any very hard worker, perfectionist guy, or lazy guy? Maybe this kind of stuff that I would like to understand from the psychological point of view.
Yeah, there's quite well documented this, I think, but when I knew him, Christian, obviously the band went through quite a severe crisis with Dave's addiction issues later, But when I knew them, they were all like extremely good friends and very supportive of each other. Obviously, on the 3 album on the Berlin trilogy, Alan Wilder was very much the studio head, so that he was there all the time. I mean, the whole band were very present, but Alan was there from start to end on every day of the session, like the assistant and me and Daniel. So in terms of perfectionism, I think everyone had their own idea of what the record should be, how the band should sound, and they were all very clear about that idea and unwilling to compromise. So that might be all kinds of things. It might be a question of how the backing vocals are supposed to be, what tempo the song's supposed to be. Is it raw? Is it noisy enough? Is it too soft? Is it too hard? Any band is a complex network of personalities, like a family. I wouldn't say anyone was lazy. I don't think you can achieve that kind of global success by being lazy. Everyone was extremely focused and had trying to do their best in their part, in their roles. Certainly Alan was the keyboard player at the time. Everyone thought he was he was the new boy when I started working with the band. He was the one who could play the keyboards and sit down and play any song. Martin's conventional musicianship in his ability to play guitar and keyboards in that way grew obviously massively over the years in between. But Martin was obviously the genius songwriter who came with amazing demos. Dave was obviously hugely committed to delivering the best powerful vocal that he could, and also very obsessed about the noise underneath the whole track that was helping support the vocal melody. So there's no one riding there's no one lazy in this group. Fletcher's very concerned about the overall vibe of the project. He never claimed to be the strongest musician in the group. One of the amazing things in the breakthroughs at this time in the early 80s, with records being made by synthesizer groups, if you like, is that no one's playing anything really. The machines are playing it. So you can program, so a certain amount of ego leaves the room. With young people in a band, especially at the beginning, the drummer might be quite egotistical about playing the drums. In the bass player, it might be really important to them what the bass line is like. But when it's all programmed, everyone's doing everything. So there's a way, as we know from making program music that we all do now, you can kind of sit back and go, is that the right bass sound? And so there's a lot of conversation was happening all the time and dialogue between the members, all the people in the studio, about the nature of the beats and the melodies and how they're being presented. And then that was really like a breakthrough moment for me when I realized that no one was particularly attached to everyone was attached to all the sounds. So even someone like Fletch, who's not a genius keyboard player or a genius musician, it's like he was hugely important in defining the way that the band moved forward in the years when I was working with them.
Okay, that's very important. Like, I think to rehabilitate Fletch. Yeah.
I think I don't. Well, maybe he needs it. Maybe he doesn't. There's such a core, such a hardcore. Those 3 guys from school friends from Basildon. That's a strong, deep, long-lasting relationship now. So, it's like reminds me of the. Someone said, one of the Beatles said about Ringo Starr, who's obviously a super important drummer in the Beatles. One of them said that he wasn't even the best drummer in the Beatles. Never mind if he was the best drummer on the planet. He wasn't even the best drummer in the beat. And that's the kind of interesting thing, but he was still hugely important, you know. So, so really what we got is a bunch of guys all working with machines, trying, very ambitious young guys as well. So very ambitious, very focused, very present. I had a lot of fun working with them, and I learned a hell of a lot from them, and I had huge respect for all their different talents.
Were they arguing sometimes or fighting sometimes, maybe? Just anecdotes.
Yeah, probably. They were probably more arguing and fighting with me and Daniel more than they were amongst each other. Me and Daniel got told off in no uncertain terms a few times.
Okay.
But, you know,
Fantastic.
No one came to blows. It wasn't that serious, you know.
Thanks for your question, my friend. Rob, who's next?
Mike LaJoy is again.
Hello,
Mr. LaJoy.
Hey,
you're
I'm back. So Gareth, you mentioned in one of the recent short videos you did, the Artist's Way book, and it reminded me that I had read this like 15 years ago.
Okay.
And you've inspired me to go back to it and read it again.
Okay.
Because I'm also a digital artist, you know, computer artist, and I think it's a great great way. I was looking through the chapters again, and everything's about recovering. And so my question is, how did you stumble across this book, and like what was it really about it that kind of spoke to you?
I think a friend of my wife's had recommended it to her, and I'm not sure how much she connected with it, my wife, but she thought it might be something interesting for me. I think that's the story, how it came into my life. And one of the great things I got from it, brother, was I mean, obviously there's a lot in the book, and I've not read it for quite a few years, but I do remember being encouraged by Ms. Cameron to make collages, you know, graphic collages, and by doing, so I followed her instructions or her suggestions, you know, and I tore up old magazines and put out paper, and I made a few paper collages. Some of them, you know, quite big, like 3 feet by 3 feet or something, and it was really good fun, and it was an awesome process that had like an accidental quality to it, but also I picked obviously the images that I used, and having made some visual collages out of old scrap paper and magazines, I started to think about how this might transfer to my musical work, and became bolder about taking ideas from different corners of my life and, if you like, pasting them together and seeing how they all started to fit. And that was a hugely inspirational part of the process of making Electrogenetic. But beyond that, it kind of kick-started me into saying, oh, look, there's a finished collage. I would make a collage and look at it. A couple of them are still on the wall in my apartment, you know, where I think, oh, that was really good. I just made that. I really like it. And so it kind of gave me the confidence to shut down the critic, or to negotiate with the critic. I think a lot of the time I struggled for many years partly because I love such great music and I worked with some great musicians. I struggled for many years with the idea that what I was doing was somehow not good enough.
Yeah.
You know, this massive critic sitting on my shoulder saying, no, you're no good. You're not Kraftwerk. You know, you're not Beethoven. You know, that's true. But I am me, and it became important to me. So somehow I negotiated with this critic and said, look, okay, I know I'm not Kraftwerk. Just give me a break. I'm going to get on with doing something for 3 hours. And the other great thing I just wanted to share about creativity, and I'm sure there's other questions, but is that I found as well, through doing the watercolors, actually, which also came from being inspired by Julia Cameron, is quite often when I do make a watercolor, when I make it, I think, oh, that's shit. And I look at it, I think that's no good. But I've learned to step back and look at it in 3 days' time. And then I'd look at it and I think, oh, actually, I quite like that. I'm quite pleased with that. And then, you know, a week later, I might look at it and go, oh, well done, it's really good, I can show that to my friends or something, you know. So I think that's important. That's again this terrible critic. I think our job is to make stuff and not criticize it. I think that's really important as artists. I think we just need to get on and make stuff.
Yeah, sometimes you need to separate the professional from the artist, and
somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like you said, you know, I'm surrounded by amazing designers. I work at Microsoft, and it's humbling, but it's all, you know, it's also very inspiring, and but it's hard to not compare yourself at times, and anyway, thank you.
No, I totally feel you. I think it's very important to realize that we are never going to be them. That all we can be is us.
Yeah.
So, you know, good luck, brother.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Rob, do you want a sip of water?
No,
Hello.
I'm good.
So I just have to tell Mike, you guys are never going to be Apple, so it's okay.
You know something, guys. He has just
John is up next.
He has just a little bit of inside information. Gareth cycled here tonight, about 7 or 8 miles, 9 miles,
maybe
9 miles in the cold. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Fantastic.
yeah, I'm just gonna say it's he's got a very funky fold-up bicycle. It's quite anyway. We're going off topic now. Let's get back on topic. Rob, hit me. Who's next?
Sean is up next.
Shauna, your question, please.
Sean, not Shauna. Sean, you know.
Oh, sorry, Sean. Sorry. Hello, Shauna. Sean.
Hello,
Sorry,
Vaughn.
guys.
How are we?
Sean, how are you, brother? Sorry. Please, your question.
I'm grand. Gareth, what a pleasure. Thanks for this. I actually had a question about the vinyl stuff, but that was like an hour and a half ago. And you've said so many amazing things. I love the whole tape thing, by the way. While you were talking, I dug out my 456, the first EP. I'm a jobbing music producer. I have been since the late 90s. And I say jobbing because I haven't had the pleasure of working on some of the hits that you've done, but it's my career.
Great.
But what I wanted to ask you is in relation to you releasing Electrogenetic as a vinyl record, because in my experience, some of the artists I've worked with and I came up, I started my engineering career just at the end of tape. So I learned on tape and then went into digital.
Yeah.
And I found that the music I really like to listen to, like the classics from back in the day, sounds fucking great on vinyl. But then modern artists, when I hear a record master of it, it's kind of like it's almost like songs are mixed and mastered for the format that they're released on. And I was wondering what your impression on that is, given that you're planning now to do Electrogenetic on vinyl. Are you going to remaster it? Are you going to rely on the preamp in a record player that people have?
Well, I found that when we transferred the digital, I've been very lucky to work with some great mastering engineers. So I kind of try and present them with something they can work with. Joe Laporta did the audio mastering of Electrogenetic at Sterling, and he and the master that he did that we used for Tidal and Spotify and everything was great. But it also even transferred to cassette. I was really quite surprised myself because we've done a small cassette run. I've not heard the American cassette yet, actually, but we did a UK cassette run as well because we wanted to do. It's very expensive shipping, so we tried to like make some in the UK for Europe. It's a different story, really. But anyway, so we did like a kind of a bog standard cassette run kind of thing, and it sounded really. I mean, it sounded really good on cassette. It transferred somehow. So, I mean, there is what I don't particularly enjoy on vinyl is when the music's really over limited and slammed, you know, and super loud. But I mean, I don't enjoy over limited, super loud, slammed mastering anyway. I just took part in a compilation record of remixes. That I can't say what it was yet, I suppose. but some of the guys who delivered remixes, they were really slamming. And so, and when I first got the mastering back from the mastering engineer of the 2 remixes I got on the record, they were horribly loud and I had to. And it was like a race to the bottom because some of the people had delivered these super limited slammed. I deliver work to the mastering engineers that's very open and very not limited, not squashed, to give them room to work. So I think that, and obviously my other friend in mastering, Alex Wharton at Abbey Road, knows how to transfer stuff to vinyl in a very loving and careful way. I've been thinking about love quite a lot, actually, in the way that we work, because the wind of harmony. I got something from the I Ching about the wind of harmony being fed by the flames of love.
Are we alive?
I think Vaughn, George, and Gareth froze up a little bit.
Yeah, I think they have to.
Yeah, I thought it was
Are we still there?
They lose us.
Yeah, you were frozen.
We lost you for a second. You were talking about the winds of love.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Oh yeah, the winds of harmony are fed by the flames of love. But I was going to say that I am very lucky that I can work with some really good mastering engineers. So I try to give them something that when they've mastered it, it translates to all formats. I mean, I'm not, and that kind of works so far somehow. I'm not one of these geeks who mixes through a Spotify emulation plugin or something. No. I don't do that. That can be very effective, I know, but I'm not really working in mainstream pop, so I don't need to do that.
Well, it ties into, I'm going to very quickly slip in another question, because you said you used a lot of Eurorack modular stuff, and you mentioned Make Noise as your big go-to. I'm a huge fan of the Harvestman. The Hertz Donut is my favorite Eurorack oscillator, for example.
Yeah.
Did you find that, actually you might not have done, but I've used plugins for so long that when I started with Eurorack, it was just so dense, like it blew my head off. And when I was mixing, I'm like, no, you can't have that much 60 and 50 hertz going on. Did that factor in at all? Or did you just go, no, it sounds great, let's do it?
I did find, as I was making the record, the more I took away, the stronger it seemed to get. I think we find that quite often. It's like sculpture, isn't it? Like you start with a block of stone and then you take stuff away. And obviously if you take too much away, it's all ruined. But I did spend quite a lot of time removing and but I was also very happy with the big fat massive bottom end. It was something I really dearly wanted. See, I made a lot of records in the 80s that didn't have any bass on, brother.
Yeah.
So really, I can't do that anymore. It's
and
so
your
important
album, your album that you've just released, my God, the low end on that is, yeah. So I'm very interested to hear the
Is it all right, Sean, or is it too much? Do you think?
No, it's orgasmic, frankly.
Okay, that's good. Okay, thank you, brother.
No worries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. That's a great question. And I think coming on to the masterclasses again, I think that'll be a very good first topic. Replicating the bottom end of electrogenetic, but there's so many subjects. Right, Mr. Rom, who's the next question, please? Sir?
Hello, Alberto.
Who's that?
Alberto's up next.
Hi, everybody. Greetings from Italy. And
hi,
thanks
Alberto.
to Vaughn and thanks Vaughn and of course Gareth for this opportunity. So my question is, during the so-called Berlin trilogy, you also produced 2 Einstürzende Neubautens album. So what is your memory about that time, about the recording of those albums?
What, Neubauten?
Yeah.
Neubauten, working with Neubauten was a huge. They're such great guys. That was really fucking crazy, though. Really crazy. Obviously, I mean, there's no the incredible intensity and energy and the power of the kind of destructive creativity that they brought to the table was really amazing. I spoke enough German to be very impressed by the lyrics of Blitzer Bargeld, and all the homemade instruments. We were chatting earlier to a guitarist who spoke. We were speaking about individual sounds, you know, and how to make something new and not built with plugins, you know, something authentically new. And obviously Neubauten took that really to the limit, because they didn't use really any conventional instruments. When I suppose Alex played some guitar and Mark Chung played bass guitar, but so much of the rest of the instrumentation was built by them, you know, and that was really inspirational and creative. It's in the spirit of punk, I suppose, because it had this do-it-yourself ethos. You know, we can make music from anything, basically, and they made music from junkyards in some sense, from scrap metal, which was very, very impressive. Great energy in the group as well. I thought great dynamic, lots of opportunity to experiment again, and one of the amazing. I mean, I worked very long hours in those days when I was young. I would often work through the night and be completely burnt out, if you like, crazy. But one of the things I remember about working with Neubauten is having very late nights and then coming back to the studio the next day to carry on with the session. And quite often when you work very late nights with a band, you know, you turn up the next day, say midday at the studio, and the band wouldn't show till 3 or 4 o'clock. But when with Neubauten, when I came back to the studio at midday, they were already there outside because they'd been up all night anyway, partying. So they hadn't, you know, so they hadn't even gone to bed. They were back at the studio already. Very, very obsessed, really, obsessed with carving their art out of the time they had available in the studio. I just thought they were a bunch of great guys and a bunch of geniuses.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you for your question, sir. Rob, who's next?
Hello.
Hello, how are you? It's nice to talk to you, Gareth.
Marisol, hello.
Yes, hi. I
Hi.
have 2 questions, actually. First of all, well, how is like you could work with different stages of Depeche Mode from the electronic period up to the darkest period, and I also admire the work you've done with Indochine. That is also one that I like, and I seem you worked with this group in the time where they were producing also rock. So how is your experience in working with this kind of hard rock and also electronic side? So that's what amazed me, and I want to know if you can develop that idea.
Well, there's so many great examples. There's so many people have taken this further than I've been able to do. But so because I've always been interested in. I've not really worked with that many heavy hard rock guitar bands, but I've always been interested in the power somehow of the noise they can make, and somehow that's informed some of our use of synthesizers. A lot of the work I did in especially as we moved into Black Celebration we were doing a lot of distortion of the synthesizers. We were taking the guitar amplifiers from the guitar bands and putting our synthesizers through them, through the pedals and through the guitar amplifiers, to somehow try and lift the scale of the sound and make it more dimensional. And the work I did with Indochine was I had the great pleasure of working on 2 albums with them, but I only mixed it. So all the production work was done when I arrived. So my job was to make finish telling the story. that they'd already started telling so powerfully with all the recordings they'd made. So Indochine came to me with synthesizers and guitars, and that was super fun. And I know, and because the combination of synthesizers and guitars for me goes right back to my early years when I discovered Pink Floyd. I don't know if you were here with that question. That combination, obviously Pink Floyd are not a hard rock band, but still there's a beautiful combination of guitars and synthesizers. They've almost done it better than anyone else. And so I've always been inspired by and respectful of their work.
Yes, it's a good mix. Yes, I really love your answer, because I was thinking you were working with Depeche. They started like synths, and then gone with guitars, and then Indochine. I didn't know that you work with Indochine. I also a fan of them, and I say, oh my! So that's why I was wondering how this came. And so it's great that you can work with both types of sounds.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Thank you, Marisol.
Yes.
Nice to see you. She's the we call her the #1 Depeche Mode devotee girl. She runs the Depeche Mode in Peru fan club. She's like a 24-hour party girl. She's like always up, and we love her. Thanks, Marisol. Always a pleasure to hear from you. Rob, Rob, can I just ask you, what's the queue looking like at the moment?
We have probably about 5 or 6 people in the queue.
Okay, that's fine, because that's fine.
Hello.
I just want to quickly draw attention to this nutter here in the group. Everyone, look at him.
Ryan.
That's Ryan. That's my brother. That is actually my brother. You can
Hello.
see. You can see he looks like a less handsome version of me. But yeah, that is my brother.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, he's doing his Boris Johnson there.
I recognize him.
He's better looking than you, Vaughn.
We all know
Get over
that
yourself.
the coronavirus cannot sustain itself, but we all know that we can sustain if we all go on holiday. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Boris. Thank you very much. Words of wisdom.
Thank you.
Back on topic.
Brian, I'm going to add you, I think.
Yeah, he's definitely a friend. Who's next, Rob, please?
Jeff Roll.
Jeff Roll, please, sir, your question.
Hey there, Gareth.
Where are you? Oh, there you are.
I wanted to ask, you worked with one of my favorite bands of all time, Wire, and they have a unique approach to writing and recording. They always use kind of an avant-garde armature to their song arrangements. What was your greatest memory of working with Colin Newman and Graham Lewis and the rest of the guys in Wire?
I mean, when we did when we made the Ideal Copy in Berlin, we made the stupid decision to work right through the Christmas holidays. It was we all decided to do it, and actually that was profoundly difficult and a bit depressing. And it was the only time I've ever tried to do it, and I'd never done it again, because everyone was like, you know, they were away from the parties, they were away from their friends, some people were away from family. You know, I'm a huge fan of Wire as well, and I met them at a very interesting stage. They're as you said, they're always searching for something new and different. And at that stage, when we did Ideal Copy, and to some extent to Belly's a Cup Until It Is Struck as well, they'd abandoned the traditional Wire sound because they wanted to explore this new thing of sampling and MIDI, and I was deeply into this as well. And so we you know, in some ways we explored a road. We went quite a long way down a road that didn't really suit the Wire sound, and I'm kind of pleased that Wire, for the work they did before I worked with them and the work they did afterwards, where to me it felt like they rediscovered the power of their original sound. It was a great experience being in the studio with such creative, funny, talented, intelligent, experienced people, and we were able to experiment crazily. But it was also not easy, partly because of this crazy schedule that we did on the first record, where people got depressed, to be honest, over the Christmas period when we made Ideal Copy. And I remember another great thing. Graham Lewis made a huge collage on the wall because there was a high quality photocopier in the studio office, right? And so no one was in the office because it was over the Christmas period. So I mean, he must have spent thousands of dollars worth of photocopy time, and he made this huge, great collage of, I can't even remember what it was, but that was one of his side projects that he did as we were making the record. Do you want something more specific? What are you getting at exactly?
No, I just, they're one of my favorite bands of all times, and you work with them closely on 2 records. I just wanted to get your input on that. I appreciate your time.
How do those 2 records you know what I'm saying then? In a way, those 2 records, they don't really fit in with the canon of the Wire, do they? They're
True, I break down that band. I break that band in 3 phases. Their early period, their punk period, their mid-'80s electronic experimentation period. That's phase 2. And then and there's always been like a 5-year break between they reboot the band, and then when they came back in 2000, that's Wire phase 3. So it's just, I guess, they have so many side projects as well, like Graham Lewis, as he said, and the Colin Newman Band.
And that awesome one that they did with the Dome, the whole Dome project, that was amazing. Duet MO, that was an amazing project. I thought the one they did with Daniel, But I mean, I was so pleased to meet them. Obviously, this came through Mute Records and Daniel, and we did the Snake Drill first, the EP, and then we moved into this electronics and MIDI experimentation, which was a lot of fun, and we all learnt a lot. I don't think it really suited where they needed to go. That's why they needed to go away and reboot, as you say, to come back to phase 3.
Yeah, I think it's the first record I heard that actually emotionally disturbed me, which is a good thing in my book.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. We've just had some fresh beers delivered, yes. So, guys, cheers to you, Gareth.
Cheers.
I want to actually, guys, all hold your drinks up here. I want to make a toast to, thank you all, but a special toast to Gareth for doing this. He's showing us such respect. And here's to the next Electrogenetic album and the next.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
It's fun to be here and chat with you guys. I appreciate it.
As I say, I promised Mrs. Jones we'd only keep him for 2 hours, but
cheers.
So we've how much time we got? Yeah. So Gareth, it's up to you. Thanks for the question, Jeff. Who's next, Rob?
Patty is up next.
Okay, please, your question, sir.
That's Patty, actually.
Oh, sorry. I beg your pardon. You went digital there for a second, or was it just my ears?
Oh,
Hi, Patty. How are you, Patty? All right?
I'm well, thank you, Vaughn.
Thanks for coming on.
I'm very happy to be here, listening to you all. I'm from Louisiana, and it's party over here all the time. But I want to congratulate you, Gareth, on Electrogenetic. I think it's fabulous, and it's such a cool name, by the way.
Thanks, Patty.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights and your time, and thank you, Vaughn, for making it possible, and Rob and everybody else involved. I always say that hindsight is 100%. My question is, was there a time where there was a debate as to where the song direction was going, and you played a major factor or an influence in that? I'm thinking specifically Depeche Mode, Black Celebration. I mean, I love the way Depeche Mode's Black Celebration album, the whole album is. I think it's pretty darn near close to perfect. But, is there something because that's my first album that I actually listened to a full album of Depeche Mode. So is there something that you think that you could tweak it somehow? Or, that's like my follow-up question. Thanks.
So what's the question exactly?
Like, was there any time where one of the songs in Black Celebration or even working with Depeche Mode, that there was a song that was going in a particular direction that you're kind of like, well, maybe we should do it this way, or, they were unsure of which direction to go, and you kind of played a major influence on it? I don't
know. It was the song demos were extremely strong. always with Martin's song demos and actually Alan's song demos on the first record, Construction Time. I mean, so the demo was very important to us because in those days the demo might be recorded on cassette in a very kind of lo-fi format. In the modern world, the demo might be on a computer, and you can build on the demo in a very simple way. But in those days, you had to completely rebuild the song in the studio. And so the demo was always really important to us because it had a magic atmosphere. And it was almost like a holy relic. It was the birth of the song when it first arrived. So a lot of now Black Celebration was very special, and this has been widely spoken about as well, so I'll make it brief. But Daniel had the idea that we should stay in the studio the whole time. I mean, we went home to sleep, but we didn't have any days off from starting the recording to finishing the mixing. So that brought a special intensity to the process and a kind of craziness, really, like a lockdown, actually, almost like a kind of a lockdown craziness. Which was very powerful and very challenging. Of course, we experimented with different ways of making the songs. You know, some of the songs, so, you know, the occasional piano ballad that we did might have been considered to be developed in an electronic way, and finished up staying as a pure piano ballad. Even to sometimes, especially in the early days of my work with them, there might be some discussion if Dave or Martin should sing the song, and that's quite a big difference, you know. But there wasn't me deciding. You know, these ideas would come into the room and people would try different things out. Certainly Black Celebration was the major contribution I feel I made to the Black Celebration, apart from showing up every day to work, was the acoustic space that everything was put into. We were very obsessed by making it as three-dimensional as possible somehow, to make it almost not echoey exactly, but feel like it was played in big rooms. So there were always struggles with making all the songs, which is why I've said recently that Vaughn and I were chatting about it, that we never, even when we were finishing the songs in the mixing, we always had all the synthesizers there, so that if there was a problem at the end, if someone felt there was something missing or some sound needed replacing, we could always do that. And that happened all the way down the process, right until the final mix was made. Anyone could come in and say, well, we need to change this bass sound, or we need to re-edit. You know, this song doesn't have a middle part. We need to make a middle part, and that might be made in the mixing stage. Black Celebration, I just remember as a very intense, long journey together, that where we all stayed sane, but only just. We almost went crazy.
Thank you so much for answering my question.
Yeah, thank you, Paddy. Did my best to answer.
Thanks. That was a great question, Paddy. I love that answer. Yeah, that was that you say everyone went a bit insane, and that was the last record you did with them. Was that you just deciding I can't do this anymore?
No, I did come back later, didn't I? Because I worked
Exciter, you know?
Yeah, I worked on Exciter with Mark, and I worked a bit on Ultra with Tim. Yeah. Actually, but no, it wasn't me saying I can't work with the band anymore. I think the band thought we need a change.
I see.
Anyway.
Yeah, that was interesting. We'll talk about that later. But Exciter was a time I know when Martin was struggling with a bit of writer's block, and didn't they get you in just to kind of assist? Because Martin obviously felt very comfortable with you. So
not just me. Me and Paul went up to Martin's place, his home studio, and helped him work on his demo. We just provided support, really.
Yeah, because he was struggling at that point. He was having a bit of writer's block or something.
I don't know if it was writer's block. I don't know what it was. But we got invited in to help, if you like, the demo phase. But by just showing up.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's
yeah.
encouraging. You know, if you're stuck in the studio on your own, sometimes it's really difficult.
It
And
is,
if people
yeah.
show up,
Yeah.
you kind of get your ass in gear.
Yeah, this is
a
true.
bit.
This is true. Something we'll talk about gigs, because the modern music producer tends to spend a lot of time in isolation, and that's something we'll address. Thanks again for the question, Paddy. Rob, how's it going there? We got they're lining up. Who's next?
Yeah, we have Miranda up next.
Ah, Miranda, one of my patrons and a regular contributor to the live chats. Where are you? Miranda, your question, please.
Hi, hi Gareth.
there you are.
Just wanted to thank you very much for doing this.
Hi, Miranda.
And I wanted to say I really enjoyed Electrogenetic.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Especially the transition between Michigan and Farewell. Those are my two favorite tracks, and it's just a beautiful transition.
Thank you.
My question is about Black Celebration, specifically Stripped. Could you tell us a bit about capturing the sound of what I think is like a rocket launching or like an explosion sound? Towards the end, before the engine idling kicks in, you can hear it I counted about 6 times.
Yeah, we have round about in November in the UK, we have a day called Guy Fawkes Night, which is this guy a long time ago, this guy tried to blow up Parliament. And actually, I think Guy Fawkes Night is celebrating the fact that he didn't manage to blow up Parliament, whatever. So on Guy Fawkes Night, we have lots of fireworks, right? Like that's American, isn't there? Fireworks in America on Thanksgiving, maybe. So these
4th of July.
4th of July. Thank you, brother. That's the big firework thing. So 5th of November, right? We do in this country, a lot of people do fireworks, and Diwali people, Hindus do it as well. But anyway, so fireworks are available. So it is a rocket. So we're in the car park outside the studio. I think we're at West Side Studio in London. Each of those trilogy albums were made half in London and half in Berlin. So we're still in West Side Studios. And there's a car park outside. And we have the idea, because we're doing sampling lots of found sounds anyway, going out into the world. Ever since Pipeline, we've been madly taking samples from the real world. We thought, oh, let's see if we can get a rocket. And I remember getting the assistant to help set up microphones down the car park, like 3 or 4 microphones, spaced out down the car park over like 30 yards, maybe 40 yards or something. And then shooting off these rockets. They are rockets. It's a firework rocket, and trying to record it on all these different mics. And there you go. Somehow it worked, and we put it on the record. We loved it. It was like the car idling. That's Dave's car. So, and that was a bit. It was just stuff that was in our life. We thought, oh, we can make something out of this. That's the best engine rhythm I've done. I've obviously used engine rhythms on other tracks. I think I'd already done it on Collapsing New People by Fad Gadget. We used a printing press as an engine groove under the track, but the Dave's car on Stripped just was amazing. The character and the atmosphere, and I guess it was probably parked outside in the car park when we recorded the rocket as well. So that's the process. It's probably round about November the 5th in the evening. We're launching fireworks into the sky and just recording them, and then putting them in samplers, of course.
There's actually a movie about Guy Fawkes, which is, of course, Vendetta.
Oh, V for Vendetta, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I've only seen the ending to it. I didn't see the full movie.
Was there another question, Miranda, or was that just that?
That was pretty much it. Just wanted to
have I answered your question?
Beyond.
Well, I guess if I could add to it, do you remember how many recordings you did? Because they sound different.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess we I don't know, maybe we spent like $50 on fireworks, and then we recorded them until our little box of fireworks was all gone, Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't remember. I've no documentation. We undoubtedly would have recorded 4 or 5, I expect, they're quite big rockets because we wanted stuff that made a noise,
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah, that pretty much answers it. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Thanks,
you.
Miranda. I know Daniel Miller said on an interview that was that was probably the most dangerous sampling you guys ever did.
Really? Oh, I don't know.
I don't think it's that dangerous, but yeah, I suppose I don't know. Right, Rob, how are we looking there? Who's the next question?
So Bedroom Drummer is online, but can't speak at the moment, but wanted to find out about the Drums album by Spiritual Friendship.
Okay,
Yo.
Go on. Yeah, that's good. That's a good topic.
What can I say about that? Nick and I have got a concept going with Spiritual Friendship. We made the first record, and then we thought, oh, what this record is comprised basically of drums, drones, sequences, if you like, melodic sequences, and field recordings. So, and we love making our first record, and we thought it's a bit dense, this first record. So we decided to make the next 4 records. The first one was drones. We did a whole series of drones at Moog in Asheville. The Moog lent us their studio for like a week, and we made some amazing drones. And then the second record was a drums record. And my friend Nick has got a studio called the Space Pit in Brooklyn, and he's got loads of old drum machines. So we went there for like a week or something, or I don't know, longer, maybe 10 days. And then we composed and recorded all these pieces with only drum machines. And that's it, really. That's the idea. And currently we're working on our sequences album, Spiritual Friendship 4, which might be finished by the end of the year, which has no, oh no, it has some drums now. We've started breaking the rules. But the rule with the drums record was only drum machines. And that was very powerful because, you know, like a lot of creative people, once we got some limitations, it was easier to get stuff done. So we gave ourselves the limitation of only drum. We had quite a lot of drum machines though, like 20 drum machines or something.
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. That shows that's a real sort of out the box question. I will put some links below this video to the Spiritual Friendship stuff and the drums and Nick Hook and Common Collect and all that stuff.
Cool.
Because I'm very much for independent artists. Right, Rob, what are we looking at?
Lloyd, did you have another question?
Yes, I do. Hi, Gareth. Quick question: what's it like working with Vince Clarke?
Awesome. And he's super chilled. I love Andy and Vince. I mean, I love, as I said, the winds of harmony are fed by the flames of love, right? So I love a lot of the work that I do. You have to love it, otherwise you can't do it. Beautiful dog, and
yeah.
And Vince is like super down to earth, in my opinion. He's like obviously been hugely successful throughout his career, and he's a true artist in the sense that even though in terms of worldwide sales and recognition, they're way beyond their peak in the 80s when they were like one of the biggest bands in Britain. They're still very passionate about writing and producing and recording music. And I deeply respect that. Vince is hugely creative. I've been working on a little project, been working for him on a little project recently that was going to come out next year. And that's, again, been like, I've been so proud of what he's done because it's something I've never heard him do before. And I've been very impressed by that. He's just very no nonsense. Vince is no nonsense. He is not interested in bullshit.
Yeah.
He's very open and very friendly. If you bullshit him, he shuts down immediately.
Oh.
You know, he's one of these people, he cannot stand any bullshit. He's just like, he won't, he just shuts down. But he's, I mean, he's a hugely talented guy and a great inspiration for me, especially his legendary synth collection. God,
yeah.
What a great pop songwriter.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the question. Thank you for answering the question, Gareth.
He's really cool. He's just like a normal bloke. That's what I think of Vince as.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Now, I remember there was that documentary once, the top 10 electropop pioneers. I think it was Rusty Egan was quoting something that Vince Clarke apparently said. And Vince apparently said something like, forget about all the art, forget about all the makeup. It comes down to writing pop records. And I have hit after hit after hit. And it's quite funny, just as in, we're getting quite philosophical now, just if you look at like the electrogenetic thing and the way you put your music together and the way you paint, it's very sort of like free-flowing and abstract. But if we take Vince Clarke now, it's kind of very like, I don't want to say formulated because it's not stock Aiken Waterman, but it is really sort of like, if you listen to his approach, it's very like song. There is a formula with Erasure, and it's a winning formula. I mean, they had tremendous hits.
He's very no nonsense. He's got a very good work ethic. In all my experience of working with Vince, he goes into the studio and he gets it done.
Yeah.
He doesn't like.
And he works alone, doesn't he? A lot of the time.
I probably now.
Yeah.
But in the period when I was in the studio, when I had the experience working with Erasure, he was more always had a engineer or producer with him.
Oh, I see.
But certainly now I believe he's working on his music in his home studio in Brooklyn.
Something I've often said on the channel when I'm talking about Depeche Mode and Erasure is that point where Spick and Spell, when obviously they got signed, that was such a brave move for Vince to go, I'm out of here. Because you think of it, most people, they would have hung on to the opportunity. But this just shows the strength of his conviction. And he's a very sort of, I get the feel, not a control freak, but he knows what he wants to do. And it's my way or the highway kind of thing.
I don't know what happened then because I didn't know any of them. I don't know what the politics were at that point.
But as I say,
but interestingly, the change turned out to be brilliant for everyone.
I was just going to say that.
You could look at that as a calamity.
Yeah.
You could say, and I'm sure for a moment it was a calamity for Depeche because the lead songwriter left or got booted out. Whatever happened, they split from the lead songwriter. But how amazing it turned out for everyone involved.
This is what I'm saying.
Isn't that a life lesson?
Because if they had gone on for 3 or 4 albums, Martin would never feel the need to step up to the mark. And hence we now have Depeche Mode and Erasure, 2 of my favorite artists of all times. Very different, but I love them both. Right, Rob, who are we on to next, please, sir?
Philip Seifert.
Philip, your question for Gareth, please, sir. Philip?
Yes. Why, thank you.
Hi.
First of all, it's an honor meeting you. This is just a question perhaps you can consider, but have you considered releasing individual stems from one of your pieces so that we could,
I have considered it actually, and it's interesting that you say, and I'm totally open to doing that. I thought it'd be really fun to release the stems. I've got the stems even prepared already because at the mixing stage, because I'm a bit of an old pro, at the mixing stage I made stems. There are sample packs on my website which I've given away already. Okay. They're quite, in fact, one of my dear friends from Voca Gentle spoke to me the other day and said she'd made a commercial remix with my sample pack. Was it okay? And I said, of course it's okay, Ellie. I'm delighted that you are actually using them. So I've got a website, electrogenetic.com, obviously, and then the sample packs there. But I will put the stems up maybe early next year because I just think it'd be really fun to let people hear the individual elements and do what they want with them. So thanks for bringing that to my attention.
Philip, that's very, very good. And I don't want to steal your thunder, but this, thanks for bringing that up. And we're going to give you all the credit for that. This came to my mind last week. I'm not trying to say it because Philip said it. It was kind of like I was thinking, obviously the way the music industry and everything works now is, and because Electrogenetic is a very individual project, it's bringing awareness to it and, getting people to get involved. So I thought, why not do like a remix? And I don't want to use the word competition because we don't go down that route. But then I thought I'm probably not going to ask you because I thought because Electrogenetic is such a deeply personal album, I didn't think you'd want to go down that route.
No, I don't mind.
However, I'm asking you guys, are we still there? Here's a question to you guys. I'm throwing lots of questions and this is sort of related to the masterclass. If we did some kind of, I don't want to say a remix contest, but if Gareth was to release the stems for Electrogenetic and all the geeks here in the community have a go at doing a remix of it, because you seem open to that idea. Is that what you're saying?
I'm totally open to people doing what they want with the stems at some stage.
Well, that's brilliant because a lot of artists are quite pressured about. So if you're saying that and if you guys are up for that, then let's talk about doing some kind of remix thing, and then
we could easily do like the digital release, a Spotify release or something of a whole bunch of. I'm thinking there's 2 levels to this. I'm thinking obviously about inviting some of my friends to do a remix, but this is different. What Philip's talking about, this is just putting the stems out there.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you put the stems out there, people can do what they want with them. It might not even be a remix.
Well,
that's what the sample pack's about.
Yeah.
The sample pack was the first step in that direction, and they're MP3s and full 96K on the Electrogenetic website. That's like a gift saying, look, if these sounds turn you on, make something with them and just go, let it go.
Okay, well, that's great. I'm glad you're so open with it. So we'll talk about that, guys. Well, let's have a discussion with that and see if we can do that. And we'll have some kind of remix. I don't want to say a remix contest. I'm just throwing it out. Perhaps Gareth can listen to them and decide which one he likes the most. We'll release it. I don't know. But this is a very, very exciting project to get involved with if we can do it. Rob, the next question, please, sir.
Alex Fernandez.
Mr. Fernandez, I wondered when you were going to ask a question. You've been lurking in the background there, sir. Where are you?
I'm here in Porto, in Portugal.
Oh, there
Everyone's
you are.
okay?
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Alex.
Hello, Gareth. Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
I'd like to say first, in order, like a teaser to your possible future masterclasses, that I used to teach production here in Porto. And one of my top students was chosen to attend to the Red Bull Music Academy, where you gave a masterclass there.
In Madrid?
I wasn't at Barcelona. I picked my best student to attend to the Red Bull Music Academy. He's a house techno producer, and I told him, forget about all the other master classes. Attend to Gareth. You will love what he has to tell about everything. And just to tell you that he hasn't attended to any other event other than yours. He was completely overwhelmed with what he learned.
Oh, great!
From you.
That's so nice to hear, because that's why we do them. You know, that the idea is to turn on, to give something back. I suppose a bit of a cliche, but to turn people on to new ways of working and new ways of thinking. So I'm really happy to hear that it had value for your students.
Yeah, completely. It's showing up that being an open-minded, without being restrained to one sort of music or anything like that. So he wasn't aware of any of your works. I didn't tell him about anything you have done. I just said, go open-minded. You'll be totally surprised. And he was, in short, completely overwhelmed, because you became like an idol to him. About the question itself, considering that you have worked with so many people over so many years, and with all the evolution of technology inside the studios, from real tape to digital, the present point of production for new people, considering they only run softwares and everything, don't you think that when the past days, you couldn't look at a timeline when you were producing, right? You were just listening to the song.
Yeah, that's true.
One of the things that I found teaching new students in production is that they always are so focused on the timeline that they lose the conscience of what the music is.
Yes.
Do you agree on that? Do you want to say something more?
No, I want to say two things about this. And I want to quote the legend, Mr. Brian Eno, who said, anyone who romanticizes working on tape has never actually done it. I think that's important.
Yes.
I love working on tape, but it's not easy. And there's so much that comes to our life by being able to work in Ableton, Pro Tools, Logic, Cubase, Performer, whatever you want, Fruity Loops. So that's one thing. So we must be very careful of romanticizing working on tape, because most people who romanticize it haven't done it.
Yeah.
But so that's. But having said that, it's amazing. The other thing is, when a lot of us, when we're mixing, there's nothing better sometimes for me is to just turn the screen off when I listen back.
Yeah, completely.
Obviously, I'm using the screen all the time, but then, okay, let's listen top to bottom. Maybe I'm working in the same room as the artist or something. Very often, just reach forward, black screen.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're in, or another great thing we do, and I've done a lot of work with my friend Jan Tiersen in the last few years. We, in his wonderful studio on Wesson, we pipe the sound goes into the bar downstairs.
Oh, yeah.
So then rather than listen in front of the screen, we just walk down to the bar and listen out the little bar, you know, somewhere where there is no timeline.
Yeah.
It's so important, brother. It's so important. I completely get that, you know.
Yes, because when we, sorry to interrupt.
No.
Because when we are producing, we kind of become more and more obsessed about the detail of each programming and each panning and each send and whatever it is. So we really don't focus attention on the music itself. So
and also the other thing that's terrible about the timeline is if you've got like 3 tracks playing and then you can see 8 extra tracks are about to come in, then you're ready for the drop already. You know, so then it's nothing. Because you can see, you know it's coming, kind of thing. Now, oh look, I can see there's a big block of backing vocals coming up. No, that's not listening to music, as we know. So obviously the timeline's crucial to our work, and it's amazing that we've got it. But we've got to divert. I suppose it's a really there is a benefit though, and I'm thinking suddenly of classical music with the score. I can't understand a score. If you put a score in front of me, I can't hear the music in my head, but I can follow a score to some extent, a bit. So if I'm listening to a piece of classical music, sometimes it's really wonderful to look at the score. That is the old school timeline, right, on paper.
Yes.
So there's there's a virtue in the timeline as well, but also it's so important to just listen. But listening and looking is a really long tradition, though, because we used to look at the music on paper.
Yeah, it's like reading Othello and seeing the play.
Yeah, exactly. But with music, we often do both at the same time. It's unusual to be in the theatre with Othello in front of you, the play. You know, you read it at home and then you see it in the theatre. With music, both with the timeline on the computer and even if we're looking at the score in the 17th century, we've got both things at the same time. But I'm with you totally. It's great. You know, it's a miracle. The DAW is a miracle for us.
Yeah. Yes.
But it can lead us down the wrong route sometimes. And the best thing is close the laptop lid or shut the monitor off.
That's really what I was trying to end up, because you had the experience with tape. I fortunately have experience with tape, editing 12 inches and everything, so I know the drill. But the younger people don't know it, and I'm not forced to teach them that, but I do feel the urge to tell them to switch off the screen when they need to listen to what they're doing. Otherwise, they're just looking at programming. So it's almost fair to say that nowadays, doing music could be seen as the way you master the software rather than the music itself.
Which is okay too in some ways. I mean, if you can make great music with software, that's great. Just one other awesome thing about the tape as well, which you might remember, is when you get to the end of the song, you know, you have like spooling the tape back. It took at least a minute. Sometimes, I don't know, a minute and a half. And obviously all of us with the DAW, you know, you get to the end, bang, you just hit enter and it plays again. And you know, there was a great moment of reflection and thinking time when the tape physically took the spool back, you know, that's hugely valuable as well. And I think one of the ways we can build that into our DAW life is by taking breaks.
Yes, we never do.
Yes, completely.
Well, we do, I do. But it's addictive. The computer's an addictive thing, which
totally.
It's okay sometimes, but it's really important to just get up and get away and then come back. You know, a lot of the top professionals I've seen do that regularly. I watched Tom Elmhurst at Metropolis Studio before he moved to New York. For a long time, I was working there on many different projects. And I didn't even know who it was. And every hour or so, this guy and his mate seemed to come out and play pool for 10 minutes. And I just thought, they're really lazy. And then what are they doing? They're always playing pool. And then I realized it was part of his work ethos. 50 minutes work, 10-minute break. You know, and he's a hugely successful and productive guy, you know. Anyway, man, I agree.
Well.
Let's listen to the music, please.
Okay, I just bought your album, so as an end to it, I will listen to it very, very carefully. I'm sure I'll be totally surprised. Vaughn has already forwarded his surprise and his comments on your album. So thank you once again for this opportunity. Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your contribution to music.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, Alex is a dear friend of mine. I was wondering when he was going to pop up because he was so looking forward to this chat. But I just want to sort of elaborate on that talk. I've noticed with a lot of people that I'm talking to, like a lot of producers, some of them are very talented and they're fully capable of doing it. But the drawbacks are here. It's all mental and psychological. And that is why I think with masterclasses and stuff, you can find a lot of people you can go to who will teach you technically how to do this. But I think the value that you have, that you've helped me with, is you have the psychology, this kind of Yoda psychology.
Yeah, it's because the reason is because I don't know how to do it technically.
So modest.
For real. I have no idea what I'm doing.
He's just winging it. He's winged it for 40 years and he's winging it right now. No, but I just think I think there's people there are so fully capable of doing things, but it's just getting past those hurdles. And when you're being coached by someone who's a complete geek, but you're not like that. You're kind of like the Yoda kind of, where you understand that there is emotion, and it's emotion, because sometimes people get too technical about it. And he's a man with heart. Anyway, we're going off topic now. Okay, now we're into extra time now, and I did promise Mrs. Jones we wouldn't keep him out here too long.
Mrs. Jones is long in bed. So.
Oh well, there we go. Just don't let Rob get hold of you, because he's a bad influence. He'll keep you all night. Now, I listen. Talking about Rom. So Gareth is going to take some more questions. Gareth, this is your night. You call it when you feel like it. We've got some pizza here.
I know. I don't want to miss that.
Because we're going to get him some pizza, because he's got to ride home on his bike. So all I'm saying to you, my friend, is you do this as long as you want to. I think it's time to drop another bomb here. Rom. Let me just pull him up so we can see him there. So I know you guys know Rom. He's my wingman. He runs the premier Depeche Mode Facebook group, which I think is the best Depeche Mode Facebook group since Depeche Mode's Facebook group themselves. I think he's doing great work, and he's become a good friend and a great supporter to me. And I'm very happy to announce that Gareth Jones will be appearing next week on Depeche Mode Global Facebook group. We will be broadcasting again, but this time from the Art Lab. Sorry, Rob.
Oh, we're doing it all again.
We're doing it all again. I'm sorry, but this time from your studio in the Art Lab, and we might be able to do a little walk around and see some of the gear.
I'm very happy to do it from my studio if that suits you technically.
No, that's fine.
I just wanted to flag that up because I wanted to have that. I know we said we'd use the Art Lab, but you're so well set up here that I just think that's something. I mean, I'm open. If you'd like to use the Art Lab, yes, no problem.
Well, let's put it to the community here, right? Okay. So, guys, I thought we'd do it in the Art Lab because I think I would like you guys to kind of see Gareth's studio. So let's ask the question now. If you want us to do next week's talk from my studio, raise one hand, and if you want us to do it from Gareth's studio, raise two hands. Go for it. And yeah, it's in the Art Lab. Yeah. Okay. We'll do it from the Art Lab. That's fantastic. Okay.
Is it going to be on Zoom?
Yes, it's going to be everywhere. Right. We're on extra time now, guys. If this was a football game, we're into extra time. So whenever you want, my friend, call on the next question, please, Mr. Rom.
Sure. So Jez is the last question I have in the queue from someone who hasn't asked a question yet. So
okay, Jez, your question, please.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Gareth. Hi, Vaughn. It's
hi, Jez.
It's great to be here. I've I've listened to the album a couple of times now, and it really does force you to listen, which not much music does these days. And it's quite refreshing to be in that environment where it's really, really immersive, and it's very deep.
Thank you, brother.
The one thing that really got me was how at times it's quite I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. It's a good way. It's getting an emotional reaction. It's uncomfortable at times to listen to. Some of the sounds really kind of get inside my head, and I just wanted to know if you purposefully did that, whether you knew you did that or not. When you listen back to it, obviously I don't know if you're punch drunk with the whole thing, but I'm listening to it with really fresh ears.
Yeah.
But it reminded me a little bit of the film The Ring, when they play the tape and there's the music in the background, and the music is really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I like that. I like the fact that it's getting that reaction, because I don't listen to music that's uncomfortable, and it's nice to have that feeling of it's like fear sometimes as you're getting older. Maybe I'm saying too much. As you're getting older, a little bit of fear. It's a good thing. It wakes you up a little bit, makes you feel a little bit alive, and that album makes me, it's those moments of discomfort in the music. So, were you aware that you were making that at the time?
I mean, thank you for immersing yourself in it, because I definitely wanted to make something. I mean, I immersed myself in it, and as we discussed with Vaughn, it was supposed to be. I hoped people would listen from top to bottom. I wasn't really trying to make anything uncomfortable. Maybe there's some wrong notes in there or something.
No, it's not,
brother.
It's not that it's purposely melancholic or upbeat.
It's melancholic. No, it's melancholic.
Oh, it's definitely melancholic. Yeah.
No, I agree with that.
But at times, like Goon Hilly, for example, Goon Hilly it just starts to shift a little bit in just the tone. It just gets a little bit uncomfortable. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah, no, I get that. No, you're quite right. I get that totally, because Goon Hilly is, in a way, is a totally different kind of piece, isn't it? It's like like a 60s. I mean, I'm in the 60s in Goon Hilly because of Telstar. I don't know if you're old enough to remember all this stuff. The first TV satellite that transmitted pictures across the Atlantic, Telstar, was beamed down to Goon Hilly Downs, and we used to go there to the Lizard Peninsula on holiday as a family every year in summer, and we drove past it, and Joe Meek's legendary song Telstar. So it's like I'm in the radiophonic workshop really when I'm doing Goon Hilly.
Okay.
So kind of vibe, So yes, I get you with that.
Yeah.
Of course, that is somehow uncomfortable. There's no rhythm really. There's no melodies. It's just these sweeps of noise, which I love. I mean, but there's a reason why it's not 10 minutes long, because then we'd all go nuts, I think. Goon Hilly, even Goon Hilly, I think, got shortened because I wanted it very much to be. And there's an extra track on the Bandcamp actually. I think if you buy the whole album, you get an extra track called don't tell me what it's called. I'll tell.
It's okay. It's only your own work.
No, there's I know. It's called Matt's Beauty, and that is very much like in the vein of Goon Hilly. And I almost put it on the album, the normal album as well, but I thought it'd be a bit too much, because that's also a bit uncomfortable, if you like, in that sense that it's these abstract waves and shards of noise, But yes, I agree. That's like a little bit of it's a weird, tough listen, a weird listen, but
in a good way.
It's in a good way. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad. I mean, I love the piece, and I love Matt's Beauty as well. But as I said, in the end, I didn't feel I could put them both on the record. I was very keen not to, have the pieces too long. Some of those pieces started off like an hour and a half long, man. Wow. Like a jam, an hour and a half long, because you just go nuts when you've got the echoes and the sequences going and everything. And I wouldn't do that again, because it was such a lot of work editing it down. Trying to decide which bits you like the best, So I was keen not to. That's why Matt's Beauty didn't appear on the record as well. I was trying to make an LP, but one that would fit in the old school way of like two sides of vinyl, 40 minutes maybe max, kind of thing was what I was going for. So yeah, it is. I'm glad it is immersive, but yeah, it is a bit. That's right. That is a bit uncomfortable. That one.
No, it's great, and it's great.
Good.
Congratulations.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I just want to elaborate what you said, Jez. Absolutely. I think you did a Vaughnism there. I sometimes I know what you say. It's like I'm trying to say something, and it's kind of and it's kind of like it's not coming out what I mean, but I know exactly what you mean. This is definitely something that it's very unlike a lot of music you listen to, and it's kind of like it's just clear cut. I was talking to Mark Wibrow from the Electronic Cafe the other day. They were talking about your record. And they were just saying the attention to detail, and you've got to really, it's the kind of record you've got to really listen to it, because you don't sort of like catch it the first time. You've got to really listen to it. And the more you listen to it, you go deeper down this rabbit hole. And as far as uncomfortable note goes, I know exactly what you mean, because even my darling Depeche Mode, as we all love, a lot of their songs have this real sort of like discomfort and in some parts. And I know sometimes our spoken language, I think our ability to feel emotions is a lot bigger than our ability to express ourselves verbally sometimes. So it's very difficult to sometimes find the words. But I know exactly what you mean by you loving a piece, but there's just something unsettling. And I think when you mentioned the Ring, there's that. Yeah. I'm getting gooseflesh now. There's that scene whenever they see the girl come out the well. It's got that like screechy. But I fucking love all that kind of dark stuff, And this record has so got that. I mean, I just pump it like loud. Yeah, I mean, I'm just like, I feel you, brother. I really do. Cool. Okay, right. Rob, next question, please, sir.
Christian Martin is back.
Mr. Martin, your question, please, sir.
Yeah, it's been a while. Maybe I forgot my question, but I think I have a lot. My question now would be. Do you like actually Rammstein's cover from Stripped?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I've heard it actually.
Oh, okay.
Now I know about the band Rammstein, and I know they've had huge success in Germany and globally. But I'm not sure that I've heard. I've got a thing about covers, which is I really like it if people do like really weird covers. Like someone asked me to work on a cover of Joy Division, Love Will Tear Us Apart. And I was just like, oh no, I can't do it. Because the original is so special and so good that I'd much rather do a cover version of an old Joy Division B-side that almost no one knows apart from the hardcore fans. So not to say that I don't know anything about Rammstein's, but it's very challenging to cover a big hit, an awesome song, in a meaningful way. Maybe Rammstein have done it. I mean, you're making me. I'm going to go and have to listen to it after this. You realise that now? You've inspired me to go and listen to Rammstein's version.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to do a great cover of a song that's already great. I think it can be done, of course, and the great artists have done it, but I much prefer it when someone does a cover of a song that's not that well known, or something I don't know, You've Got to Work Hard or something. If they did a cover of the B-side of a 12-inch, or I don't know. That's to me that's more interesting. It's just my thing.
Because I mean, for instance, so many people have covered "Enjoy the Silence." Now, "Enjoy the Silence" is a great song.
Yeah.
And I've heard some great versions of it.
And I know why people cover it, because you're going to get loads of plays.
Yeah, it's true.
Because it's such a good song.
But take a song like "Work Hard," which is completely off the wall, and try and make something completely unique and original from that.
Yeah,
it's a good starting point.
I think it's really interesting, when a band who has a completely different style of music, like Rammstein playing metal, is covering, an artist which is completely different, like Depeche Mode in this case. And I remember also a great cover of Depeche Mode song by Nouvelle Vague, the French band. And it was also absolutely amazing because they actually took that electronic song and turned it into a bossa nova song. You remember that?
That's really beautiful. I feel when people can really put their own spin on it. And I know Rammstein are very successful, creative, musical individuals, so of course they're going to put their own spin on it. I try to stay away from covers.
Thanks for your question, matey. Rob, who's next on the queue?
Cheryl Morris.
Cheryl Morris.
Hi there. Hi. Hi, Gareth. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
I've really enjoyed your album. There was a lot of sounds, new sounds on there that I've never heard before. It was amazing.
Thank you, Cheryl.
You're welcome. You say you're going to release some more albums under the Electrogenetic. Do you have a time frame for this? Is it going to be the same type of time frame, or have you just let it go naturally, see how it goes?
The first record I could only do because I gave myself a time frame. Actually, I said, I mean, we released it this year, but it was actually 2019. At the start of 2019, I said I need to do a solo project this year, and I told about two. I think I mentioned it to my wife, and I told a couple of other very close, important people in my life that I was going to do it, and that forced me to do it. The time frame. Because otherwise I'd have felt like a complete fake, you know, if they got to the end of the year. So how did it go? Oh, I didn't manage to, you know. So that helped me. So I need to make a time frame. It is somehow this year has got eaten up with the release of Electrogenetic and working on some other wonderful records. I've co-written another record, which I think is an Electrogenetic co-write with a new artist that's going to be announced soon. That I'm very excited about, that we wrote in lockdown actually, and got a deal with a record company, so that's wonderful. And I guess I got to do it next year. I can't leave it any longer. I've started work. I've done a couple of pieces. I'm kind of being I'm trying to. It's I think I might call it Time and Tide. I'm not sure yet, but that's the title that's in my mind at the moment. It's a working title, I suppose you could say. It's Time and Tide. And it's very much inspired by my father's record collection, actually. So, and that's a combination of different things. The music on there, micro samples from the record collection. I can't use big samples because most of his record collection is still in copyright because it's 70-year copyright at the moment. But there are some. So, and most of his record collection is all classical music. But he was a big. You know, for many years, I thought moving into pop and rock music and electronic pop was like a rebellion against all the culture that my father enjoyed. But then after many years, I thought, oh, actually, one of the things my dad really liked doing was listening to records. And what am I doing with my life? Trying to make records that people like listening to, you know. So it's kind of, the Electrogenetic was about honoring my mum and my mother-in-law somehow. It was inspired by their passing. Very close to in the end of 2018, and this record actually is more about referencing some of the influence my dad had on my life. So, wish me luck, Cheryl.
That's great. Thank you. I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Rob, who's next?
Marshall Potter.
Mr. Potter, I wondered when you were going to surface, young man.
Well, thanks, Vaughn. Thanks, Vaughn, for putting this on. Thanks, Rob, for administrating, and thanks, Gareth, for being here. It's an honor and a pleasure.
Nice to meet you, brother.
Yes, congrats on the album. The whole thing is just a masterpiece. I love it. I particularly love Safe Travels. The use of negative space is simply amazing. My question about Electrogenetic is more of a logistics question. Did you separate the writing process and the composing process from the mixing and production process? And if so, how long did each phase of the process take roughly?
Well, most of the not really. So even like going back to the work with Depeche that I was talking about years ago, I mean, there was no separation really between the recording and the mixing in with Martin and Alan's songs, but the writing was done before. So, but the way that this record kind of emerged from modular synth improvisations, if you like, jam sessions on modular synths. So that formed the basis for most of the tracks. And then after that, it was about editing and carving stuff out. There probably was a period about 2/3 of the way through the year that, I mean, I didn't spend every day of this year working on it, but in the year time frame that I gave myself, there probably was a period about 8 months in when all the pieces stood there and then it needed to be edited, stroke mixed. And the editing never stopped. I mean, I can see you're a musician yourself. You know that you even as you're mixing, you might think, oh, I mean, I don't need these double time drums. The drums can be half speed. Look, I can take some drums out. So stuff like that happened quite a long way, very late into the process. I didn't finish up ever with a formalized like session unmixed that I could have sent to a friend and said, oh, would you mind mixing this for me? It never was like that. It felt to me like all joined up journey that the writing and the recording went on right until the end. But there was a way after about 2/3 of the process, I thought, oh, I've definitely got a record here, you know, which was a great feeling of encouragement. You know, I thought, oh, there's more than 40 minutes here of good stuff. You know, it's a couple of pieces. One piece I scrapped all together. One piece became an extra track, as I said, and everything that I removed, I just felt it got stronger. Really.
Oh, sorry.
Can anyone hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
Sorry, we had our audio dropped out. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, just the speaker fell. Are you? Can you hear it?
Yeah, we're back.
Marshall, just say something.
Can you hear anything?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're cool. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We're good. Thank you. Thank you for answering my question. Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay.
Marshall. Is that a cork Triton behind you?
It is a Korg Triton. Yeah.
Oh, sick.
Okay, and I used to sell there. You know, when it comes to aeroplanes, I'm sound like a geek now, and keyboards. I know the lines on them. I can usually identify them from miles.
I got this one off of my buddy back in 2005, maybe.
Yeah, that thing kind of blew the sort of gave the Roland XB80 and the XB60. That was around the same time. The Triton kind of gave him a hard time. Anyway, let's not turn this into geek talk. Nice to see you, brother. How are we doing there, Mr. Rom? Have we got any more questions lined up there?
Yeah, Fernando Ferreira, and then after that will be Marisol.
Oh, okay. Fernando, your question for Gareth, please, sir. Where are you? Fernando? Is that Fernando?
Hello?
Fernando.
Do you listen?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
There you are. Hello, Fernando.
Sorry, I have some issues with the camera. Sorry for the poor image.
It's okay.
Just would like to greet you, both of you, and my pal Alex from Porto.
Oh yes.
I'm also calling from Portugal.
Okay.
From the capital, Lisbon.
Okay.
I have a DM related question. Among fans, both albums, Ultra and Exciter, in which Gareth took part. Nowadays, both albums are seen as underrated by some fans, and I would like to know the view of Gareth on that subject. If he has some view on that subject. Don't know if you got the question.
Yeah, I got the question. I don't. When you say do you mean they were underrated at the time?
Yes, at the time. Yes.
Yeah, I think perhaps
both albums grow among fans.
Yes, I think that's interesting, isn't it? I suppose that perhaps they're not so immediately obvious. I only played a very small part in Ultra, a very small part, and I just was called in to help out with a bit of recording and a tiny bit of mixing.
Oh.
And with Exciter, I worked on it a bit more, but very much.
I recall pictures of you in Vaughn magazine, sitting side by side with Tim.
Yes, it was great to meet. That was one of the, obviously working in any group, it's always great to meet new people. So it was great to meet Tim and great to meet Mark Bell as well, of course. But maybe they're not obvious, and I don't know. I don't know what happened with those albums. They did, but they probably were underrated at the time because they probably didn't have the hits on them that some of the other records did have. it was obviously extraordinarily difficult to follow Violator and Songs of Faith and Devotion. I mean, how do you follow those records? In a way, the band needed to like almost take a breath, and like our friend was saying about Wire, kind of almost have a reboot. There's some lovely songs on both of those records and some great music, and people appreciate that now, but it doesn't have perhaps the power or the immediacy that Songs of Faith and Devotion had. I mean, you guys probably know more about the Depeche Mode catalogue than I do, to be honest. But I can see that, you can feel in the band that they've climbed this huge mountain. Now they're exploring something else. They're kind of rebooting. So perhaps that's what's happening with those records at the time. It's very, it's very difficult to follow something that's as globally hugely successful as the Songs of Faith and Devotion tour and album, and what a trauma the band went through at the time as well. So I guess they're surviving the loss of an important group member again.
Gareth.
Like you said, it happened to Alan.
Alan, yeah.
That happened at the beginning with Speak and Spell, and
Vince, and then losing.
And then using Alan later,
yeah.
and then they're finding out how they're going to move forward. Dave's emerging as a songwriter. Everything's changing, So that it was. Perhaps those albums are in less focus than the albums afterwards and the albums before. I don't know.
Okay, I'm sorry. Really quick, Gareth, would you agree that Mark Bell, rest his soul, could be somehow like starstruck for producing Depeche Mode, and that became like a blocking process? I don't know. I have this theory.
I'm not sure, because Mark was already working with Björk. I mean, and that is, how much love have all of us got for Björk as an artist? What a great artist. It's not like Mark just came out of LFO and suddenly got asked to produce Depeche Mode. He was already making incredible albums with Björk. So
but Björk is this raw material. You can experiment with everything. Martin is song based.
Yes, but I don't know if Mark Bell was writing with Björk. Maybe he was co-writing with Björk. So he didn't seem to be starstruck. He seemed to have he was a fan though. He was clearly a Depeche Mode fan, and he was, and when you're a fan working with people it's always very challenging. If you're a huge fan, I guess a lot of the it's like I was talking to Andy Bell the other day about someone he'd met. I can't remember who it was. It was someone big, and he said, "Oh yes, I did meet her. I was completely starstruck."
I can imagine.
So it's the same. But I don't. Mark was very focused and had lots of production input and lots of ideas. But he was a different kind of producer from Flood. Flood was like, if you like, a very experienced professional producer. Mark was, of course, a top professional producer, but Mark primarily for me was a musician, a super creative musician. And as you say, rightly, in some way, had to express himself musically is a bit more limited in working with tightly delivered songs. So yeah, maybe, but starstruck, I'm not sure he was starstruck exactly. But
okay,
it's an element. It's an element.
Forgive me just for interrupting. Thank you.
No, it's okay.
No, that's fine, Alex. That's a great question. No, that's a great question, Alex, because this is something I've addressed on my channel as well. And one of the questions I asked the community just the other day was, when you get someone to produce, let's say, Depeche Mode, we're going to get a new Depeche Mode record. Is it better to get someone who is a fan or someone who is not a fan? Because if you're a fan, you've got preconceived ideas of what the music should sound like. But if you're not a fan, you're going to be more neutral. And that's a very interesting question to which someone have got very different answers to. But
yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I do a lot of work with artists where I'm a fan of what they do, even if it's a new artist.
But you can
I would say, well, obviously I'm a fan of this material, you know, and I want to help make it as awesome as I possibly can.
I suppose it's.
So I think a lot of top producers might well be fans of the top artists they're working with.
I think it does help, because if you're excited by something, it's going to spur you on to do greater stuff, I think.
Winds of Harmony.
Yeah, Winds of Harmony.
Fed by the flames of love.
Absolutely. Let's have another toast to you, Gareth. Is your beer still there?
It is, yeah.
We can't give him too much because he's got to ride his bike home. Otherwise, you can have the sofa here
Cheers.
tonight if you want to. Right, thanks. We got more questions there, Mr. Rom.
Marisol is up next.
Marisol, the #1 devotee girl from Depeche Mode, Peru. Where are you, young lady? Marisol?
She disappeared.
Or she's muted. She's muted and she's...
Yeah, we can move to Peter, and then if she comes back on, we'll get it back to her.
Okay.
So Peter has a question.
Peter, your question, sir?
Thanks. Hi, Gareth.
Hi, Peter.
Hi. Went by Indiegogo yesterday and supported your vinyl project.
Thank you very much, brother.
Yeah, very, very good. I have a question about committing, the tracks. Did you record them dry or with reverbs and delay?
Loads of stuff was recorded with the effects.
Okay.
I committed to that. In the modular, then the effects are a big part of it, with delays, helping make the groove. And even as lots of the piano melodies, I had the big effect, and I did. It's an interesting question because I did think about this as I was recording it. I'm using the Eventide H9, a lot black hole reverb on a lot of the piano melodies, and I've got this fantastic reverb going thanks to Eventide. And I thought about, am I going to record that on a separate track? And I thought, no, I mustn't do that. I must commit, I must commit to this. And I'm kind of used to that because when I was younger and working on multi-track tape, we didn't have many tracks. So, you made an effect in the studio and you had to record it with the sound. A lot of the vocals I tracked with Dave in Depeche in the 80s had the space echo and some reverb on the track. You could never take it off because that was part of making the sound. That's how we felt was a good way to work. So I managed to apply that to myself. I thought the whole thing was about committing and moving forward. So yeah, almost everything, some of the sampled percussion, the effects got added later, but then they got recorded as well before the mixing. So that every time I opened that session, I had like the reverbs or delays made with outboard gear. So it was recorded. But yeah, a lot of it was printed at the time, so that no going back.
Thank you for your question. I have another question here. I just want to take one from the Vaughn George YouTube channel, and I don't know. I heard about this collaboration, but I haven't actually heard any of the music. I know he wants to know, what do you think about the work between Vince Clarke and Jean-Michel Jarre? Did they do a collaboration together?
No, Jean-Michel Jarre did an LP with a whole bunch of different musicians.
That's right. He worked with Gary Newman.
Yeah, he worked with a whole bunch.
Did you hear that album?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a long time since I heard it. But one of the things I really liked about it was that Jean-Michel Jarre insisted on showing up. They didn't do it by sending sessions around the planet. But you could imagine that an artist of that level would say, well, I'm in my studio in wherever the studio is. And you just collaborate over the internet by exchanging files.
Remote, yeah.
He did not want to do that, apparently. He showed up in all different people's studios.
A little bit like you coming here today, because we talked about when we're going to do these Zoom chats, we were going to do it remotely. And you said, no, we should.
No, because it's a different energy.
And I just thought, no, absolutely. I mean, what can I say, guys? Can we just toast to having Gareth Jones in the Vaughn George facility? It's full respect. Thanks again, Gareth.
Yeah.
Right, Mr. Rom, who's the next question? Was it?
Well, I don't think Marisol's back. Are you there, Marisol?
Yeah, there was. There was. Marisol, you wanted to ask a question, darling. Or she's.
We can't hear you.
No, in fact, no, I didn't have any question.
Oh, okay. Your hand was up. Your virtual hand is still up.
Your virtual.
Oh, okay. I'm going to put it down there.
Yeah. So if you don't have a question anymore, also Lloyd and Christian, you still have your virtual hands up. Larry had been wanting to ask another question. So go ahead,
I'm going to nominate my friend Mr. Larson to ask a question, Mr. Anders Larson from Sweden, because he's always been a very good supporter of my channel. He's been there since the beginning. He's one of my patron members, and he's been hassling me for ages. When's the vinyl coming? And he was one of the first ones to pledge. I'm sure you want to ask a question, my friend. Here's your chance.
Well, thank you very much for the time. I hope you hear me well. A little bit of a glitch here. First of all, true pleasure to meet you, Gareth. Obviously, I've been a huge fan of your work for many years.
Thank you, brother.
I'd like to tell you a story and the reason behind why I find it so fascinating about listening to music on vinyls. Obviously, I have 3 kids now. I'm in my 50s, and 5 or 6 years ago, I bought a turntable again and pulled all my vinyls back out from the stock. And my daughter, she was like 15 at the time, and obviously she got a bit curious on what these flat pieces of vinyl were.
Yeah.
And you know, kids today are sort of streaming music on demand, and we've had this discussion here previously on the channel on how different things are in terms of how you kind of appreciate and how you listen to music these days. Now, I actually had to learn how to operate this old-fashioned machine and how to put a needle to the record, and that you should do it from outside and in, and how you need to sort of fiddle around with the RPMs and stuff like that, and when the music stopped, that you actually have physically to approach the strange machine and actually take the needle off and swap the vinyl back again to the other side and stuff like that. And that is typically why I am sort of eager to have this vinyl, because obviously Gareth, the music is brilliant that you put out, but I think it will be a shame and also a little bit of waste of all the energy that you put into this. That if this was not turned into proper vinyl, put like that.
Thank you, mate.
So I guess this is not really any question, but I think that we really touched base on everything that I had in mind. I was curious to know about the sort of Exciter collaboration that you did and how that was, how you were asked to join the session and what came out of this, and how you think your contribution made an impact on the actual recording. But again, I think that we've touched based on all these things here tonight. So
Anders, I think it's great to hear you talk about the process of playing a record in so in such an amusing way, but such an accurate way. That's what's so amazing about it. It's the whole ritualistic aspect of the thing brings a special. It's obviously for people of my generation, that's all we knew at the beginning.
Yeah.
But this ritual of having to get off the couch, to walk over to the device, to pick up, you know, and the very fact, as so many of us, you don't really, you do skip across tracks of a vinyl, and we used to do it. But I'm much more likely, if I put a piece of vinyl on, I'm much more likely to listen through to the whole side and enjoy it. Whereas if I'm on a playlist, it's too easy to say, oh, something I don't like that, and just skip, and not even give it a chance. So I thought that was a really great description of it, though. This archaic, the ritualistic nature of listening on vinyl that's one of the things that makes it so beautiful, as my friend Reinhold said, and so special. You know, Exciter we chatted about a bit. Yeah, I said, you know, basically we got, this is the first time I ever had the pleasure of helping Martin record his demos, basically. And we were, technology was sufficiently advanced in those days that a lot of the stuff we recorded at the demo phase, we could bring on to the real production. So me and Paul just spent a lot of time in Martin's home studio, which was only about half an hour on the train from where we lived in London. We'd just meet up and go up every day. Sometimes we'd stay overnight. Martin had a lovely big house with with a swimming pool actually, so we were able to like chill out and have a swim and generally hang out as three mates in the studio, and also encourage the fact that we were constantly recording stuff was a big encouragement in the process, I think. Like loads of it got used on the album, because when Mark came to the record as a producer, he was able to pick and choose bits that he really liked from what we'd made, and so like how much, it's such a big team effort. Obviously Martin wrote it all. There was no co-writing happened ever. We were there to encourage, but the actual writing always happened in private. Even if he said, hang on a minute, I've got an idea. He'd go away for a couple of hours maybe with his acoustic guitar, and then come back and say, look, let me just record,
he writes alone.
So there was no writing in the room. There was a bit of production help and recording help in the room, but there was no, but it's not for me to say how Martin worked. It was clearly a very private and special ritual actually that Martin was going through when he was
channeling
the divine spirit in his songs, I never saw any of it.
Martin has often said that. He said it's a very strange process. He says if you feel like you're channeling something, but he doesn't say it in an out there kind of way. But I think we all know that is sometimes you come up with something, you go, how the hell did I do that?
Many artists do that.
Yeah.
Many great sports people do that.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, they train and practice for many hours with enormous discipline. But still, they go, how did I make that shot? They don't know. It's the hand of God, right?
Well, it's opening. I think God helps those who help themselves. Andres, thank you so much, brother. I really appreciated that. I love you. You summed it up.
I just have to say, it was the first tune that she put on was the 12-inch version of People Are People on a green vinyl, and obviously it was played on 33 RPM, so it still really sounded strange.
Great. The joys of vinyl, right? You can play it at the wrong speed.
This is true.
I did that the other day with a new order 12-inch that my wife had in the house. I put it on and it was the wrong speed and we both laughed. It's just, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful experience.
Of course, you play it backwards as well, and you hear the satanic lyrics. Remember,
my vinyl won't play backwards.
Oh yeah. What if you?
I was just listening in New Order.
You have
confusion.
Okay.
Rob, who's the next question, brother?
Well, I think since Larry just spoke up there, Larry had another question to ask.
Quick question, Larry. Go for it, mate.
Okay, so when you co-produced Ultra, how different was it seeing Depeche Mode without Alan Wilder? Vaughn, do the siren. Alan Wilder fanboys and fangirls, make some noise.
I didn't co-produce Ultra. I just Tim Simmonham produced it, and I just did a little bit. It was a very, I mean, these are huge changes, and it's like, how different was your friend after they got divorced or something? It's a big thing, man. So obviously it was a huge change in energy, but I hardly saw any of it. I got pulled in at the last minute in when the band were working in Abbey Road, and it happens a lot on big productions. There's a schedule and people run out of time and they think, oh, wait a minute, we could work in parallel. Whilst I'm working in this room with Dave on the lead vocal, someone else could be working in another room on a guitar overdub so I got pulled in a little bit of parallel working to help with so I didn't get the full energy. I remember recording the vocals for Home on a handheld mic in one of the Abbey Road studios. Martin was going to do the vocal, and I just gave him a handheld mic and he just went for it, and everyone was like, whoa.
Oh, he just sang it on a handheld mic.
With the speakers on.
Yeah,
that was awesome. And that was like a one-take moment, really. So that was special. So really, I only had special moments. I didn't see the loss of Mr. Wilder.
Okay, so it's funny that you mentioned the Beatles, Pink Floyd, and Ultravox, because there's this one Pink Floyd song I like called "Set the Controls to the Heart of the Sun."
Awesome tune, brother.
Yeah, it was just so amazing and just so psychedelic. My dad actually did see Pink Floyd back in 1980, and I really love the Beatles. Helter Skelter is my favorite song, and this may seem as like a shock to everyone here, but I only know one Ultravox song, "The Voice." It's just so good. Like it starts off light, but then it just goes dark, and then back to light again.
Okay. Great.
So good.
I'm with you. I'm with you there, Larry. I love Set the Controls to the Heart for the Heart of the Sun.
Well, I just want to sort of elaborate there, Gareth. You were, if we look at the Depeche Mode history, you were kind of like the go-to guy. If you think of it, even though your last album you produced was Black Celebration, when they were in a bit of trouble, was it Daniel that contacted you and just they knew they could rely on you?
No, I wasn't there. No, the only time where we did something new, when I was called in for to do this additional recording. Yeah, I mean that could have been anyone. There's a whole, by that stage the band have worked with many people. There are probably a few. I was probably the guy who was available. They weren't. It wasn't that they were in trouble. There was no trouble. It was just about, we need to get someone else in because the deadline, we were fast approaching a deadline. Let's do some parallel working. I think they'd started mixing.
Right.
I think Tim had started mixing. I'm not sure.
Well, it's great. You've always been involved. You can write such an interesting book one day. Yeah.
Yeah, if I had notes, I should have taken notes.
Yeah. Yes, definitely in those days, things would. Brain freeze. What was I going to say now? Mr. Rom, any more questions there?
Miranda has a question.
Miranda, your question, please. Go for it.
Hi again. I was wondering about Master and Servant, the sample of the whip sound. Is it true that it's not a whip at all? It's actually someone hissing in the studio.
Someone pissing?
Hissing.
Oh, hissing.
Also
Sorry. So you said someone pissing. Sorry, Miranda. I can't remember. You see, this is where I need my notes. I'm sure we would have had a whip and tried sampling it. Maybe we couldn't get the sound of the whip. I mean, I don't know. It rings a bell what you're saying, that somehow we're trying to make a convincing, like in Foley in films, a lot of stuff, if you record the actual sound, it's not convincing.
Yes.
So, then you record a fake sound and it's way more convincing than the real sound. So
that's what I read, that the actual sound of the whip wasn't working. So the trivia that I read actually said that it was Daniel Miller. Someone
made a hissing sound. They made a sound with their mouth that sounded like a whip or something like that. Yeah, maybe. Or we could have combined the two. We definitely would have tried because the idea of the S&M theme, the light S&M theme that's in Master and Servant would have meant we would have definitely tried a whip, but maybe we couldn't record it in a convincing way. I've had that, Miranda, with trying to record water as well. It's really difficult to record a bubbling stream or something. You can go out there with great microphones and record the stream in the meadow, and then you take it back into your speakers, then it sounds like the cistern in the toilet or something. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
And maybe the whip was a sound like that.
Yeah. Well, Miranda, that just points out another thing. It's very often is when I interviewed Gareth, when I interviewed Dave Bascom, it became very apparent that very often the fans know the answers better than you.
Yeah, of course.
Because they are so focused on the details.
That Miranda has brought me back to something that does ring a bell.
Yeah.
That somehow it was hard to make it work with the authentic article.
So they just replicate.
Yeah.
Thanks, Miranda. And then also something you said just now. This is something you geeks will love. Is the song Home, which is probably one of Martin's best, most Mode fans will say it's one of his best songs. So he actually recorded that just into a handheld mic. And this is something Gareth told me when I was in his studio last time. He actually said that Andy Bell sometimes recorded vocals with a handheld mic using the SM7B.
Yeah, but not that as handheld. I use the SM7B a lot.
Yeah, but not
as handheld.
Yeah,
that's a bit bulky.
Yeah,
to hold in the hand.
there was a Neumann one used as a handheld or something.
I'm current no the famous Shure SM57 or 58.
Oh, he's sang into that.
Those are great. But right now I'm using a DPA. I think it's called 2048. It's a stage mic.
Okay.
No, it's amazing. There is a legendary Neumann stage mic as well.
The reason I'm putting this out there, because this is mind blowing to some of you geeks there, is because Gareth, you don't have a vocal booth in your studio.
No,
you don't. And you know, I know people, we agonize about isolating sound, and we have isolation filters and stuff, isobox and stuff. And then here comes the real professional who we look up to. He goes, yeah, and you sing the song into a handheld mic. There's no reflection filter, and that becomes the music we love. So if that doesn't point out that we as the enthusiasts are often focusing on the wrong things, you know, where we say, I would have thought now Home, which is such a great song. For me to just think he's just standing with a handheld mic, you would have thought it would have been in an isolation. But also there were lots of examples of that. If we come to Pipeline, Martin actually recorded his vocals under a railway arch in Shoreditch. And that's actually a train coming over. We went back to the railway arch where we recorded the metal samples that we made the music with. That was part of the flow of the P. That was part of the concept. But it's about performance, isn't it? Especially with any performer, a bad recording of a great performance is worth infinitely more than a good recording of a crap performance. Correct. And
so sometimes, if especially with a singer, if they're just feeling it when the backing track's on the speakers and they're just standing there with no headphones and a mic in their hand, and they're in another world.
So Martin would have sung it without headphones.
No headphones.
And so really, if you listen to that vocal tape in isolation, it would have spill on it.
Sure.
You see, guys.
Loads of spill.
Loads of spill, But that doesn't really matter because it goes into the mix anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because once the performance is there, then that's everything. Then that's the jewel at the center. You know, that's everything.
Guys,
you get the performance.
Who's up for a Gareth Jones masterclass? Say aye.
Aye, Captain.
That's two people. I heard two people. That's awesome.
No.
You missed me. I was muted.
Hey, I'll take another couple of questions, but I think we should start.
Absolutely.
I did.
Psycho Jones is up next.
We're on your time now. Two more questions, please. Who's next?
Psycho Jones is up next.
Psycho Jones.
Hello, from the window next to
you.
Hello. With the same last name. Hello, Gareth. Hello, Vaughn. Hello, Rob.
Hey, Psycho Jones.
Glad that I'm on board.
Hi, Mr. Jones.
I joined quite late, so I'm not sure if the question was already a topic, but I heard or read something that you did some remixes for the latest Erasure album for one or two songs in an interview. Are there any plans that these remixes are going to be released?
Yeah, they're going to be released. We just cut the vinyl on Friday, so it's just been mastered. And I did one remix. I did two remixes of the same song. Andy Bell had an idea that he wanted to do. I've done loads of work with Andy in remixing over the years as well. So Andy had an idea for one song that we did. And that was like super fun, which you'll hear later. It's a bit cheeky, I'll say that, but it's really cool, I think, whatever. And then after we'd done that, I kind of was quite inspired. I did what I called an electrogenetic remix of the same piece, another one. So they're both, and luckily for me, the band like both of them, so they're both coming out.
Wow!
I just heard the masters on Friday.
Yeah, because there's just a remix vinyl release from Erasure a few days ago, so I was curious, but it's not on it.
No, it's not. No, it's a different thing. It's obviously if it's just cut to vinyl, it's probably going to come out. I don't know, in 3 months or something. Right. The record they have a long. It gets made a long time before it's released because they have to do publicity and marketing. So there will be some remixes next year, sometime, I guess.
So the song is a secret, or
I don't want to give it. It's more fun if I don't give it away.
All right, so, I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks a lot.
I love working with Andy. He's not a programmer and he's not a keyboard player, but he's a really good vibes merchant.
Yeah.
When you obviously he's a fantastic singer and a great songwriter, but in the studio he's a really good fun to work with as remixing, because he always has ideas and vibes, and then you throw something at him and we work away. We work well together. We enjoy it. We're old friends, man. We've known each other for 40 years, 35 years or something.
The innocence.
You know, we're fun.
Yeah, thank you for that information. And,
thank you for asking.
And thank you for this great cassette. I
it's got the cassette.
I got two, because I want to keep one, maybe give one as a present. And back in the day when I heard about the project, I got in touch with Matt of Common Collector, and and I wrote a little review, and I'm not sure if it reached you, but he really liked it. So maybe I can send you later or something. And
yeah, please do. If you wrote it, did you write a review for a website?
It's for my I got a channel. It's called Mute Mode, where I.
Oh yeah, please send it me. Then I'll link to it from my electrogenetic site.
If you want. All right.
Great, man. Thank you for spending real money on the cassette.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Psycho Jones, I just got your tag earlier on for Mute Mode. You tagged us in, so thanks very much. Send that review to info@electrogenetic.com or to info@vorti.com, and I'll make sure Gareth gets it. Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you.
We got one more question, Mr. Rob. Who is it?
Alberto gets the final question.
Alberto, it's your.
Okay, thanks. Just coming back to Master and Servant, I think I read somewhere, or maybe a documentary, that at the end of the mixing of Master and Servant, you just found out that the snare sound was somehow left out of the mixing.
Yeah. Right on.
Is it true? Is there something true about it?
Yeah, it's totally true. We did it's very driven by the kick drum and the percussion, the track. The snare's really subtle, and that song was a massive piece of mixing work. I think it was the single after People Are People. So there was huge, People Are People was massive. So there was huge pressure to try and come up with something awesome. And that was one where we made a middle part in the studio at the mixing by re-editing the tape, and it was really fucking complicated. So we spent days mixing it and trying to make it and we all got burnt and tired. And I think it was only at the mastering, when we got it back from mastering, we were like, oh my God, the snare, after the middle 8, the snare's gone off by mistake.
No one noticed it until we're told. Yeah,
I know, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I mean, the song is the song, and it's great.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I've always admitted to my mistakes. I like to own up to mistakes. I think it's terrible to hide your mistakes, especially if you're working. If I break anything in the studio, I always tell the tech, because it's important. I mean, I don't break stuff often, but I think it's important. But that is a funny story to me as well. We lost perspective. It's like Alex was talking about earlier. We didn't have a timeline to watch, but we got so tired and so drained. But by mistake, in the final part of the song, after the middle 8 that was constructed, obviously on the mixing console, on the SSL, the snare channel was somehow muted, and no one noticed.
Well, if it was digital, you could just see that the audio file.
Well, obviously, that never would have happened in digital.
Exactly.
Anyway, that's a funny story. It's true, yes, Alberto, it's true. I apologise for the missing snare.
That's confirmation from who really did that mistake, that lucky mistake. Anyway.
Yeah, maybe it's a lucky mistake. Yeah. I think it would have been fine if the snare drum was in there, but it isn't.
We still love it. Right.
Thanks a lot.
The guys here on the chat and everyone that is watching on the Vaughn George YouTube channel, I want to thank you all for being here, but let's just, I don't want to be cheesy, but let's be cheesy. Let's give a big round of applause for Mr. Genius Jones.
Thank you, everyone.
I think you will all agree Gareth has shown tremendous respect to the fans by being here tonight. I'm so proud this is a one-off thing. And of course, we're going to be, well, I don't want to say one-off like never again, but this is a first time. And I think you have shown such respect to me and to the community. And I just really am asking you guys to please check out the Indiegogo. if you don't want to get behind the vinyl, then just by all means listen to the record. It's available digitally. It's available on cassette. But if you're a real audiophile like me and Anders Larsen and Gareth, and you're really passionate about it, then I would you could do no better thing than to actually get behind the vinyl pressing, because this will be like a dream come true for Gareth. And I just think it's great. I just think for someone who's given us so much, if you think of Depeche Mode, I mean, look at Rob Rom can vouch for this. It is like the soundtrack to our youth, and this man has shaped them, and those records made them, really. I really think it was those records that spurred them on and gave them the momentum to be still going at the moment. So did I say that right? Do I get the £10 now?
Stop. No, the main thing is listen to the music, and thank you for your attention. Yes, I really enjoyed the 3 hours chatting with you all. It was a great experience, and it's thanks to Vaughn, because without Vaughn I never would have done it. Vaughn's introduced me to all of you guys, and it was really fun. So I appreciate it. And I'm going to look forward to being with Rob on his stream, whatever you want to call it, that we're doing next Saturday.
Same time, same place. Well, same time, different place. And also, I don't want to bombard you guys.
It's not the same time. It's an hour later.
It's an hour later, but Rob is a very good host. That's why I always love having him on to support me. Rob and I will give you all the information. We'll bring everyone from Vaughn George and Depeche Mode Global. If you couldn't make it tonight, now's your chance to ask Gareth the questions. And as I say, tonight it's all about the vinyl, but also we'll talk about this later. You can get a Gareth Jones postcard. This is a postcard that was sent to me, and I'm particularly smug because this was the first one that he did. These are hand painted by Gareth. He does these all himself, and he does them all himself. And then what he does is he puts your address on it. And imagine this, you go, I've just received a postcard from Gareth Jones, and I think it's wonderful. So these are available through his Bandcamp website if you want to purchase those for yourself or a friend. And I really want to thank you guys for showing your support for being here tonight.
Can I say one more thing, Gareth?
Of course, Larry, go ahead.
So I'm trying to find like a college that could like teach me about audio engineering. And if you were to give like advice to someone who wanted to be an audio engineer, what would that advice be?
Don't give up.
Yeah. Don't give up. Yeah.
I was wondering, do we have enough time to like go over like the reason why I like came up with this? Cause like my head's like a blender that like spins up different ideas. Like, oh, maybe I should put that in, or maybe I should like take that out.
Larry, I think I'm gonna let you come on to me and we can do some coaching or something, yeah. But I do really Gareth's got to get home to Mrs. Jones now. Actually, I've got to feed him first, so we got to have some pizza. Is the pizza ready? And yeah, so guys, thank you very much. Larry, just hit me on info@vorti.com. Mr. Jones, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week on Depeche Mode Global.
Thank you, Vaughn.
Okay, how do I get to Vorti.com? It's a separate website, right? It's not on Facebook, correct?
Yeah. Info@vorti.com. That's my email. See you later, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Safe
travels,
everyone.
Safe travels.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Gareth. Thanks, Vaughn.
Bye. Thank you,
Bye,
Rob.
everyone.